Hello and a very good morning and welcome to Shop on TV. I'm Hayley Green.
I'm Sean Crawley.
We've got an incredible show tonight. We've got a show that could change so many people's lives, and I think it's that peace of mind that you actually get to do something that you've perhaps been putting off for years possibly, and that's write a will. And it is so important to write a will, because though you may think everybody knows what you want, sadly if you haven't written a will, there is a government will that will fall in place, which will not be.
Yeah, it won't be what you want to happen. And the great thing about tonight's show is we're going to tell you all about how simple it is, how affordable it is to get a will.
Because I think you think it's going to be really, quite frightening. It's going to be perhaps, a little bit upsetting. It's going to be super expensive. It's going to be complicated. It's law, isn't it? I'm frightened of anything about the law. But honestly, it's so simple, with simpler law especially. We actually did my mum's lasting power of attorney with them before they worked with us here on Shop on TV, and they really do hold your hand. They become friends. And please, it is so important, because we presumed we've been together 34 years.
We'll never know. We'll
never know. And we presumed, because we've always lived, worked, been together, all of our family know that if something happened to me, it would be Sean's. If something happened to Sean, it would be mine. But the fact is that would not have been the case at all if we hadn't have written a will.
And that's why it's so important. We'll be talking to specialists tonight, experts in the field when it comes to wills and lasting power of attorney. And we've got some great offers that I think you'll be really surprised at the prices. However, these prices are only available until the close of business on Friday. That's why it's important just to get the ball started.
And we should mention, actually, they weren't meant to be back with us before Christmas, but our last previous show a couple of weeks ago was so massively busy, and sadly lots of people did miss out because forgot there was a deadline. You have to order before the close of business on Friday. So they've very kindly come back to do another show before Christmas. So this, we do think, will be your very last opportunity before Christmas, and I think be the best Christmas present to your loved ones, because you're actually going to make sure everything that you want to happen is going to happen. What you want to go to certain people will go to those certain people. So let's start with the wills. The will's there. We said you'd think it would be really expensive, and £209 worth every single penny of that. But our price, well, I'd say do it tonight. Do it right now. But up until Friday, £89. That's 4 payments of £22.25. And I want you to think about what you spend on coffee. I'll say a month, but what do you spend on coffee a week?
Yeah.
I mean, that is nothing. And now you've made sure everything you've worked so hard for is going to go to the people that you want it to go to, your loved ones.
And it's just getting started, like we say tonight. You don't need any information. Second up, we've got lasting power of attorney. The offer price is fabulous. It should be a suggested retail price of $349 down to $179, and with those 4 interest-free payments, just $44.75 on your first of 4 payments. But the best offer of all is if you go for a will and a lasting power of attorney. Again, we'll explain what everything means, what it's all about as we go through the show, so stick with us. Should be £558 down to $249, or $62.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments.
And you are just securing these prices tonight, so you don't need to know anything, and you don't even have to ring and speak to anyone. We'll explain how to get in touch, but it's securing the deals. If you decide as we chat more that actually you only asked to secure the will deal, but actually you'd like to do the lasting power of attorney, just to talk to the guys, and I know they will sort it out. You're securing those prices just by getting in touch tonight. And of course, the first 250 people get a fabulous book as well, which we'll go into detail.
The book is worth £25. It's called What My Family Should Know, and basically you have everything in that book, everything in one place. So when someone passes away, they'll know exactly where to find everything. You're not looking for loads of
pieces of paper or trying to find passwords to phones and tablets. Everything's in that book, but that's for the first 250 people. So easy to get in touch, and remember, just securing those deals tonight. And I think we are going to have a really busy night. It really is about your best Christmas present. This could be the best gift you could sort out for your family. You can either go through the website simplerlaw.co.uk/shop-on-TV, or you can jump onto the phones. Now the team are there, and they'll be there till 3 a.m. So easy to ring.
Yeah, really easy. easy, and the team are
Great
so friendly. 0333 600 2600. Call centre, like Hayley said, is open right through till 3 a.m. Or you can text. Now, on these evening shows, this is usually the most popular way. If you've got your phone right there with you, just text the word WILL, WILL, to 66777. It's as simple as that, and then someone from the team will get back to you later today. When I say later today, I mean after 11 o'clock in the morning.
I think that's so easy. Just to text Will, you haven't got to speak to anybody, but what you know you've done is you've taken that first step. Sometimes we just need a little kick, don't we, to get ourselves moving. I missed out on a really great weekend away because it was a time-limited offer, and I actually rang up or went to check my basket out 2 days late, and it had gone up £600. Grab these prices, and actually that was going through our website, which is brilliant. So you go to ShopOnTV, you scroll down to find Simpler Law, click on that, and it takes you straight through to them.
Yeah, and it's as simple as this: your name, your phone number, your email, contact details, and then which offer you're interested in. But as Hayley says, if you do change your mind and you want to go for more than just the will, you can. Now, we did say we have the experts in the field with us. Two of the team from Simpler Law join us. It's lovely to have your company again. Charlotte and Ian are with us.
Good morning.
Good to see you. A nice surprise for us.
Yes, absolutely. We think we'd see you before Christmas.
Well, genuinely, when we did the last show, we believed it. We didn't have one scheduled, but yeah, look, we had a great response. I like what you said earlier about this is not an obvious gift for people, but you could do something amazing for your family tonight.
It could be the best Christmas present you could do.
Yeah.
Sort your will out. For anyone that has joined us and thinking, well, I sort of know about a will, you know, what is a will and why is it so important that we actually physically write one with you?
I think the lack of information out there, or there's quite a bit of misinformation. I think there's a lot of people who might be thinking they don't need a will, or have actually been told by someone in the pub or a friend that they don't need one, because we hear all these myths about, well, you've lived together, like you guys have said, you've lived together for 30 odd years. We hear people talk about the fact they believe their common law husband and wife should be okay.
We presumed that, yeah.
And unfortunately, legally, that's not a real thing. That's not a position. So we do these shows because we want to try and inform people and really encourage them to make a will, because then they take control of what happens. That's what a will is. A will is your last act on planet Earth. And I think you mentioned at the top of the show that if you don't make a will, you're either consciously or subconsciously making another decision, which is you're accepting the government will.
Because if we haven't got a will, it does go to, there is a will there for you, and it is a very old government will.
Yeah. And absolutely, I think this is the biggest thing that people don't realise. I've been doing this for a quarter of a century now, and the more I speak to people and I hear about assumptions, well, I assume that this will happen, I assume that will happen.
Everybody knows, everybody in my family knows.
And everybody knows, and I've told my eldest son, and that's not a legally binding position, so that can even be more devastating, because the family might know that you wanted something to happen, but unless you've made a will and put it in a legally binding document, you're going to be given the government will, which we will cover in a bit more depth as we go through the show, but that doesn't take account of you personally or your family at all, and quite often, in fact more often than not, never does what you want it to do. And
it's just a series of yes-no questions, isn't it?
It all starts with your marital status. It's a piece of legislation called the Rules of Intestacy. It was put in place in 1925 when society was very different, and I think this is the biggest thing that people don't necessarily realise, is if you haven't made your own will, the government will give you this will.
And this is the path it takes.
That's the path. It's a series of questions.
And it doesn't really relate to anybody, does it?
No, it's a default position, so it's not bespoke. It doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about your family. It doesn't care about your wishes. It's literally a default position. And really, the saddest phone calls we get at the office are from people that are saying, my mum's passed away, my father's passed away. They didn't have a will, but they told us they wanted this, that, and how does it all work? And we have to explain that they've died intestate. This is a process they now have to go through. And then it's a series of questions about the person that's passed away about, and it all starts with the marital status. And it doesn't ask if you're in love or if you're cohabiting. The question's really straightforward. Are you married or in a civil partnership? That's the first yes or no question. And like you said at the top of the show, if you're unmarried, there's actually no provision for unmarried partners at all.
Doesn't matter that we've been together so long.
It doesn't care. And so I always think what I'm about to say next sounds really melodramatic, but it literally rips families apart at the worst possible time. So making a will is really selfless.
Yeah.
Because you are doing it for yourself, because you've worked hard for everything, and you obviously want to make sure what you've worked hard for goes to where you want it to go. But it is really selfless, because it doesn't make a bereavement any easier, but it certainly doesn't make it any worse, because when you've passed away, you already have set out what you want to happen.
Yeah.
So it is your last act on planet Earth, but it is your act. What happens is your choice, because you've taken control. And again, I like what you said, Hayley, it's a gift.
Yeah.
So it's the best gift you can give your family, because it removes any ambiguity and it removes what can be a really devastating time.
You must see families sort of pulled apart, because it's not easy. It's not as simple as just being married. It's not as simple as that. And now so many people are remarried,
Blended
have
families,
got children from different partners, but they all live as a family. But in the government will, that's not taken into consideration at all, is it?
No, and again, I understand why these assumptions exist. You could have been a blended family for decades.
Yeah.
You know, and you could have stepbrothers that don't even use the word step. They see each other as brothers, and parents that don't even see the son as a stepson. It's as far as they're concerned, that's their family. Unfortunately, the law doesn't see it that way. It sees a bloodline. So forgive the finger puppets, but if you've got a married couple who are on the second marriage and they've perhaps had children from previous relationships, if the first spouse passes away, everything goes to the surviving spouse. But when that spouse passes away, so it's called second death, when they've both passed away, it only goes to their bloodline.
not to the
Not-
stepchildren as such.
Gosh.
So the first person that passed away, their children don't inherit. And of course, everyone's surprised and shocked by this and devastated by it. And then they're hoping that that child kind of does the right thing, in inverted commas, but that's a lot of pressure and it gets really messy really quickly. And the single biggest reason for a family breakdown is a bereavement where someone hasn't planned. So the reason we do these shows, we try to break all the myths. It doesn't have to be expensive. It's certainly not complicated no more, because you get to speak to someone like Charlotte or a member of her client care team. If you're really lucky, you get to speak to Charlotte. But in all seriousness, it's an amazing gift for your family. It's a really genuinely selfless act. Please don't assume that everything's going to be okay, because that's the worst mistake you can make. If you're sat watching, listening to me waffling on now, the best thing you can do for your family is send us that text tonight, or speak to a member of the team this evening, because I promise you won't regret putting this in place.
No,
And by doing that, you're securing those deals, and we have got incredible prices tonight. If you are going for the will, it is just £89, and you can split that cost over 4 payments. There's no reason not to do it, and make sure what you've worked so hard for is actually going to go to the people that you love. Doesn't have to be family. Perhaps you don't particularly like your family. Perhaps you've got friends that have looked after you for all these years. Perhaps there's a member of the family you really wouldn't want it to go to, or perhaps there's a charity you want to go. You can actually write everything down with simpler law, and you know that is actually going to happen.
It's exactly your wishes that will be delivered when you're gone. It's as simple as that. That's wills. We are going to go into much more depth about wills in just a couple of moments, but we also want to mention lasting power of attorney. Now, Charlotte, for lasting power, everybody's heard of wills, but lasting power of attorney, you might have heard the phrase but not know what it means, might you?
Yeah. I think, again, it's the same misconceptions with a will, really, unless you've experienced it through a friend or family or done your own research. Probably
I think that's the only reason we knew about lasting power of attorney, and I actually came to you for my mum's before we worked together, and you were fabulous. But I think a lot of people won't even know what it means.
No, so it's a document for while you're alive, where, again, you can nominate who you trust. It's about you having that choice again. So who you trust to make your decisions for you if you're unable to do it for yourself. So if you've lost your capacity through ill health or a freak accident, it just means that whoever you trust, it could be multiple people, friends, family, they can essentially become you in that scenario and make your decisions for you. So there's 2 separate documents for powers of attorney. So the first one is called Property and Financial Affairs. This is essentially anything from a financial point of view. So accessing bank accounts, paying bills, claiming benefits, obviously you can see there on the screen, anything to do with the property. This can range really with anything, but again, it's just that person stepping into your shoes and managing those things for you, because without that document, they wouldn't actually be able to do any of those things.
So even though I'd presume, because I look after mum now, everybody knows that I look after mum, everybody knows I love mum, and I'd always have her best interests at heart, I couldn't go to a bank and sort her money out. I couldn't. Though you think, I could say, she's poorly. There's no way, is there, that any of those people, financial people, would talk to me?
Yeah, think of data protection now. If you call anything, the first thing they say is, I need to confirm who you are. Yeah.
I have to let mum speak to them first before
absolutely.
that. Yeah.
And that's while they've got capacity.
Yeah.
So even worse, if they've lost their capacity, you know, it goes even further then, you know,
Yeah.
the walls go up and they want to protect that person.
They're vulnerable and then they become a protected person, so it becomes
Absolutely.
even harder. But I
Yeah.
mean, it's impossible in the first place. They're a what-if document. You know that you're going to use a will.
Yeah.
There's an inevitability to using a will. You make it now and then you kind of forget about it and you get on with your life. A lasting power of attorney, whilst it's not an insurance policy, can be thought of in a similar kind of way. It's a document you want to have, or more to the point, your family want you to have it if the worst happens, but then hope that you never need to use it.
Yeah.
So true.
That's the first one that we were talking about, the financial one. But
Financial,
then there's
yeah.
a second lasting power of attorney, isn't there?
There is, yeah. So this one's called health and welfare. So I think a lot of people can relate to the financial because, you know, money makes the world go around.
Yeah,
you
we
know.
came for that. I
Yeah.
didn't realise there was another one, but when you explained the other one, I was like, that's just as important.
Absolutely, yes. This one is more emotional, I think, really, because it's about where that person's living. So again, the people that you trust, they can be the same or different. These people can discuss where you live, and if they want you to be at home with them, they can make that choice. If you need to go into a care home, they can discuss the options of which care home that is. Even things down to what you're eating and what you're wearing,
Yeah.
which are really personal things. Only your loved ones are going to know those. If you're vegetarian, that's going to be really, really important to you.
course,
But
yeah.
you know, if you're in a care home, how are they going to know that that's your preference? So again, it's giving that power to people that you trust to make sure that your wishes are met and that everything's in place.
And this takes me back to a story that was in the newspaper, and I'm sure the lady was a nurse, and she went to take her mum out. She was in a care home, take her home for Christmas, and she ended up getting arrested, I think, or the police were called.
These things tend to get blown out of proportion. There's plenty of stories online about very similar things where, you know, like you said, it's known that you would look after your mum,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
everyone that
She's
knows
taken
you
her
doesn't
mum
doubt
home
that.
for Christmas, yeah.
But anyone outside of your circle doesn't know that.
No,
so
they don't know you, do they?
So if someone's been taken out of a care home without permission, you know, they're being taken out of the care system, for all intents and purposes, as if they've been kidnapped.
Yeah.
So that's why the police get called, and you know, I shouldn't laugh because, you know, this woman was the daughter, was also a nurse, so obviously knew how to look after her mum, but she still didn't have permission. When you make a lasting power of attorney, the client, you who's filling out the form, is called the donor, because you're actually basically saying, I will donate my power to this person or to these people.
Right.
So you give your voice basically to the people that you trust to make those decisions for you. So the flip side to that story is, had that daughter been named as an attorney, she would have been able to have a conversation as if she was a mom saying, well, this is what we want to happen.
Yeah.
And you've got the power and therefore you've got the authority and people will have to listen to you. Yeah. Without that, unfortunately, the sad event is the authorities and people outside of your circle don't know that you've got the best intentions for that person, so they're just going to do what they have to do, which is protect them.
Yeah.
And that sometimes feels like it's the wrong thing to the
complete
family,
wrong
but
thing, yeah.
they've got to do what's right in their mind.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and then if you haven't got a lasting power of attorney and something happens, then there is again a legal route you have to go down, which is really complicated and really expensive to try and to look after your mum or your dad or.
It's exactly what we spoke about with a will, in a sense that people, if they don't make a will, don't fully realise that the government are going to give you a will that's definitely not going to suit you. So again, if you're watching this now, please get in touch. Likewise with a lasting power of attorney, if you don't make a lasting power of attorney today whilst you have the capacity to do so, if you do go on to lose mental capacity, again, a lot of children of parents or even spouses will just automatically assume, and again, it's more of a hope, but they'll assume that they can just deal with these institutions, and as we've just said, that falls flat immediately. So then they go, well, what's the next option? And there is only one, and they have to apply for what's called a deputyship order through the Court of Protection. That costs thousands and thousands of pounds, but is also taking up to 12 months for the applications to go through.
Well, you
the
were
court.
saying people could die before that you've actually sorted out trying to care for them.
It's
Worst case, yeah.
it's arguably one of the worst things we deal with, if you like, because we will get a phone call from clients of ours who did wills, did lasting powers of attorney. They will phone up and say, sadly, my father's just been diagnosed with dementia, for example, can you help? And unfortunately, because he's now lost capacity, he can't go the lasting power of attorney route. So the only route open to the family is to go the Court of Protection. So that's a crushing blow for the family in the first place. It's now going to cost thousands. It's going to take all this time. But unfortunately, as you said, sadly people are... Yeah, and when you should be spending your time caring for them and being with them, you're actually dealing with the court process. So it's kind of a double blow. So again, just to stress that, you know, making a lasting power of attorney, making a will is not morbid. It's actually cathartic. It's brilliant planning, and it is absolutely selfless.
Yeah.
Because you're doing that for the people that you care about, because you're making their lives easier at a really, really awful time. You know, if you imagine your partner or your spouse is incapacitated, do you want to be looking after them, or do you want to be dealing with the court?
Yeah.
And
it's the last thing you want to be doing.
Yeah, and if someone's passed away, you're already heartbroken, you're already grieving, so you don't want an added weight to that of, well, their estate's not going where they wanted it to go. So that's why it's so important to have a will and so important to have a lasting power.
Yeah, I think we should recap on the offers straight away, because the deals that Simpler Law offers, and they are experts in the field, remember. So the great thing is you're getting that expertise, but you're getting it at such an affordable price.
Yeah, we'll explain why you really shouldn't try and write a will yourself. You need to do it legally, and that is, you could, I will go through it. It's frightening, actually, not having a professional will written. Nothing will happen that you want to happen, and it's so affordable, and it's so simple, and Simpler Law make it so easy. Price-wise, take a little look. I really did think making a will would be so expensive, and you can see there, regular price £209. Knowing it's going to be done exactly right, it's worth every single penny of that. However, up until, well, do it tonight, because I know you'll forget, you'll be like me. The offer is on up until Friday, close of business, but do it right now, because you will kick yourself on Saturday when you've forgotten, which is why we're back on air, actually, because a lot of people did exactly that. You want to please make sure you get in touch and say, I want to secure that price. £89 is your price, and you can split that over 4 payments, £22.25. And if you think about what you spend on coffees a week, you wouldn't, I don't think you'd even notice that, and you've done the best thing for your family and loved ones, because you know what you want to happen is going to happen.
And what you're doing tonight is you're taking that first step, you're getting started. How many times have you perhaps thought about writing a will but never got round to it? There's always something that gets in the way.
You think, oh, I'll wait till after Christmas, and then spring will be here, and then all of a sudden it'll be summer, and you'll be thinking about booking holidays, and all of a sudden something will happen, and you think, why didn't we write a will? My mum's been having her patio done for the last 2 years, and my goodness, we still haven't got it done. And the thing we need to do is ring someone to get them to come round. If you make that first step, it's actually going to happen.
And that's all you're doing tonight, that first step, securing the deal, but only until the close of business on Friday. So £89 comes down to £22.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments on that offer price, that exclusive ShopOnTV offer price. Next up, we talked about lasting power of attorney briefly. We are going to go into much more detail about everything for you. Lasting power of attorney should be £349. It's down to £179, and that comes down to £44.75 on your first of 4 interest-free payments, which you can spread the cost with directly with Simpler Law. And then the best offer of all is if you go for the will and the lasting power of attorney.
Yeah, it should be £558. So you're saving £309 there. You're saving more than you're spending. You're getting both of them for £249. But don't worry, secure the deal. Secure just the will tonight if that's what you're thinking. But if you watch the show and think, oh, I wish I'd said I'd do the LPA as well, I know when you speak to the team again, they will happily allow you to add that on. You're securing those prices, and remember, the first 250 people will get that fabulous book, which we'll tell you about, which is worth £25. It's so simple to get in touch, and there's some really easy ways. I think for us that text is always the simplest, but you can go via the website, simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV, or you can jump onto the phones.
Yeah, 0333 600 2600. The team are in the call centre right through until 3 a.m. ready to take your call.
A couple of questions. I'll answer them really quickly, but they will be busy. But then you're just securing those. You don't need to know anything tonight. I want to do a will. I want to secure those prices. But the easiest thing, you might not want to talk to anybody. Perhaps you've spoken to people all day and you just want to sit at home and then go to bed in a bit. You don't want to speak to anyone. Text will. 66777. It's so simple to do that. I enter all the competitions and I should be winning again 400,000 on Friday, but I probably won't. But if you text will, you are winning, because you've taken that first step to make sure what you want to happen is going to happen. And the book, if you do, and this is another reason we say get in touch tonight, because there is a time limited offer until Friday, close of business, but you'll forget if you leave it later on into the week. But if you actually get in touch right now as well, you will secure this fabulous book, which is brilliant.
Yeah, first 250 people will get this book. Basically, when you lose someone, you have to hunt around for everything, don't you? It could
Utility bills and
passwords for computers and tablets and phones. The great thing with this book, everything's in one place, so you know exactly where everything is. First 250 people will get that as part of the offer if you secure the deals tonight.
I always say, well, I used to say we should have that book from birth, but that's a little bit early. I think from being sort of 17, you should have that book, because you know, everyone should be able to find that book and know exactly what they need to know, rather than having to hunt for this, that, and we actually had a situation where a gentleman died, and they needed to get onto his tablet because there were emails, there's information they needed, and nobody knew the password. I'd never even thought about it. And luckily, in the end, the little grandson at some point went, I've been on Granddad's tablet.
Yeah.
I know the number, and if they hadn't had that number, they wouldn't have found out vital information. It's so important.
And you must get in touch before close of business on Friday.
Do it now.
Really simple, really straightforward. If you want to go through our website, you can do that as well. ShopOnTV.co.uk homepage. Scroll down, you'll see our on-screen partners there. Click on Simpler Law. Gives you the offer deals and the prices, and then a very simple, straightforward form
And
to
even
fill in.
I can do that test.
Even you
very
can get
easy. It's
A+.
just your full name, your phone number, your email. Really simple. And all you're doing is securing those prices. So important. That first step today could be life-changing. Can you imagine if something happened to you and you're looking down and your family falling out because you didn't get that will written? And they know what you wanted, but it's not happening, because if you haven't got a will, well, you have. You've got the government will, and it's not what you want to happen. Honestly, whatever situation you're in, you don't want that government will.
This is all about just making that first step and getting started. And remember, you don't need any documents with you. You just need to get in touch and secure those deals. So now is the time to do it with Simpler Law.
Well, welcome to STV. It's really great to have your company. ITV are already with us. It's Shop on TV, and it's a really good night to have switched on, because this is all about writing a will and a lasting powers of attorney. But a will, both of them really important, and we're going to go into more detail. But a will, so important, because actually you might think, well, I know what, my family knows what I want to happen. But sadly, if you haven't written a will, there is a will waiting for you, and it's a government will, which you honestly will not want. And
we are working directly tonight with Simpler Law, experts when it comes to writing wills and lasting powers of attorney, and we'll talk you through everything as we go through the show. Fabulous deals. They're all available until close of business on Friday, so it is good to get started straight away. The offers are brilliant, the prices are fabulous, and much better prices probably than you expected them to be. So the wills are down to £89, lasting power of attorney down to £179, and if you go for a combination, down to £249. Everything available with 4 interest-free payments.
Makes it so affordable. First 250 people will get this amazing book as well, which we'll talk you through, which is worth £25. But you're securing these prices, huge savings, and the easiest way to do it, well, you've got options, whichever is easiest with you. The easiest, I think, is to text will to 66777. Now, that's what most people do. You haven't got to speak to anybody, but you're securing that price, and the team will get back to you later on today after 11 o'clock this morning. Or you can go onto the website simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV, or you can jump onto the phones. The team, and they're an amazing team, are on the phones right now. 0333 600 2600. You can go through our website as well, but we'll keep showing you all the information you need. All you need to do today is secure the deals. They are, I'm afraid, time limited. They're only up until Friday, close of business, but you know you'll forget, won't you? The week will start, you know, you'll go back to work tomorrow, and you know you'll forget to do it. And on Saturday, you'll kick yourself and think, why didn't I secure those prices? They've gone back up. I did it just the other day with a weekend away. do it now. You're just securing the deals. You don't have to do anything else.
You
just
don't
making
need
sure you've
any
got that
information with you,
Yeah,
do you?
no,
That's the great
no.
thing. It really is peace of mind for you, but peace of mind for your family. It's a completely selfless act, isn't it, having that will in place?
It's like your last gift to your loved ones.
Yeah.
And actually, just before Christmas, this could be the best Christmas present that you could give. You could say at Christmas, yeah, I've written my will.
Everything's in order,
everything
yeah.
I've said I want to happen is written down, which means it is legally going to happen. But you have to do it a certain way. You need to do it
The right way, the legal way.
with the right people.
And we're joined by two of the experts we're talking about. Ian and Charlotte join us from Simpler Law. Lovely to have your company again.
Thank you.
Let's start off with why the viewers should choose Simpler Law, because for me it is that you are experts in the field.
Yeah, absolutely. This is all that we do.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have trained specialists that we're in the office at the moment answering the phones if you do want to give them a call.
Yeah.
We have 5-star ratings on Trustpilot, which we're really proud of. And these are named reviews as well that are on Trustpilot. So, you know, the service that we give you is a hand-holding service. We're going to lead you through that.
You become friends, really.
Yeah.
And like you say, on the 5-star reviews, it doesn't say thank you, Simpler Law. It says thank you, Charlotte. It says, you know, thank you,
Definitely Charlotte.
Tony. Yeah. They actually name, because you make it so easy. And that's the thing I loved, because sometimes I think we think things are going to be really complicated, and they're not. It's virtually a conversation. You get all the information from us.
Absolutely. Like we say, you don't need to have any answers today or even when we get to the consultation stage. That's what we're there for. We're there to help you through that process, and we won't produce a document for you unless you're happy with it. It's your document.
There's no rush through the process at all, is it? It's your own pace.
Absolutely not. Yeah, we'll have clients that will come and they'll have all the answers, and that's absolutely fine, but others won't, and that's also okay. We're there to take it through at your pace, comfort of your own home, over the telephone, get yourself a cup of tea, in bed if you want to, wherever you're most comfortable. And it's just a conversation that we're going to have, but we're going to produce a really important document that's going to achieve what you want it to achieve, and we're really proud that we have that. And the 5-star Trustpilot's on there.
You mentioned Trustpilot. We've got a review to share straight away with you at home. It is all about the people, like we say, and funnily enough, it's about you, Charlotte.
The modesty.
The modesty.
We won't be able to walk out.
So my consultation was done by Charlotte. She was very professional and explained thoroughly each stage, making sure it was firstly what I wanted, and that I also understood any advice she gave me. Excellent service. That's from Charles. And that's the thing, the experience you had, Hayley, with your mum, that was doing an LPA, a lasting power of attorney. It was the same. It was that hand-holding service.
I am the biggest worrier. My mum is even worse. We worry about absolutely everything. You know, if there's a police car behind me, I did it. You know, if it's flashing, I'm virtually pulling over, and I know I haven't done anything wrong. But you know, law frightens me, and we were terrified. We thought, oh God, it's going to be, you know, we're not going to know the answers. But honestly, the lady we dealt with, she became a friend, and it was a very simple conversation. Do you know the thing I loved the best, Charlotte, is, and I'm always one for, I can't ask that question, I'll sound really silly. Not one, and there was one question I didn't think I could ask, because I didn't at any point think it was a stupid question. You made me feel so at ease that I knew I could ask. And even after I'd spoken to you, I knew I could email and say, well, I forgot to say that.
Yeah, absolutely. You can only know what you know, and that's what we're there for. You know, you usually say this here, which makes me laugh. You wouldn't go pull your own tooth out if needed. If you've got an issue with your tooth, you'd go to the dentist.
Yeah.
Same if you've got a problem with your car. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the reason why we do these shows, is to get the knowledge out there and to show people, you know, come to someone that we've got professional indemnity insurance as well. Come to someone that has that protection for you, rather than writing, you know, a template, which is a question that comes up, which is one of Ian's favourites. But it's just having that protection and making sure that document is insured and is guaranteed to work for you.
Yeah.
And you're actually award-winning now, aren't you?
We are. We're very proud of that. Yeah.
That's
It
fantastic.
was a nice thing last month. Yeah. There's a annual event called the British Wills and Probate Awards, and Simpler Law were announced as the Estate Planner of the Year. So that's, yeah, again, another source of pride. And, you know, it's a team effort. I know it sounds cliched, but it's, you know, it's everyone from the administrative staff to the people on reception to Charlotte and her team, down to the will writers, the compliance team. Everyone's played their part, you know. There's a lot of people involved in getting that document to you and getting it to you right. You know, it's
that's the point, though, getting it to you right, isn't it, Ian?
You know, as Charlotte said earlier, we specialise in this area. That's all we concentrate on is estate planning. We offer a range of private client legal services, but you don't come to us for anything else. So you don't come to us for a boundary dispute, a personal injury claim, a divorce. You come to us because you want to make sure that your family or your loved ones, family and loved ones, are taken care of, and everything that you've worked hard for, is going to go to where you want it. So we do that in a professional way. You get to speak to someone like Charlotte or a member of her team. No one ever regrets making a will.
No.
It's not so. It's not. You never at the end of it go, "I wish I'd not done that."
Yeah.
But your family might regret that you didn't. And that's the really important message.
I think it's
to get
a real
across.
relief. You think, oh, I've done it. You know, it's a,
You
real,
often
It's
say
a
that,
weight
don't you?
lifted
Yes,
that people
yeah.
don't even realise they have, I think, a lot of
Yeah.
the time. You get to the end and they go, oh, gosh, I feel great now, I've got that done.
Yeah.
I didn't realise that was weighing me down, you know, without even realising it. So, like you say, no one regrets it. It's just making that phone call or that text today
Yeah.
and getting it in place.
And the
knowing
other
that you're
thing
doing
I
something
think
good.
that's really important is that it is everybody who needs a will, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, because it's the only way that you can take control of your final act on planet Earth. If
Yeah.
not, a set of rules that were created in 1925 is going to have the final say to what happens to your estate.
And I think a really good example of that is because I think a lot of people perhaps watching, I think if you're a single person, you might be thinking, well, I don't need a will. What's the point of me having a will? I'm not married yet. I'm not in a relationship. You know, perhaps you haven't bought a house yet. You know, you haven't got kids. So why would I need
Well,
a will?
a lot of people say, I haven't got anything. And I love how Ian always says, well, you've got a house and you've got a car.
Yeah, sometimes you don't realise what you've
Well,
got.
if you're not selling your property, you probably don't see it
You
as
don't
a
see the
value.
value, yeah.
But it is quite funny when I mean, we panic as a collective. We panic if a client says, "Oh, I think you'll find mine dead easy." Then we're like, "Uh-oh."
That's when there's trouble.
And the flip of that, of course, is sometimes people come and say, "Oh, ours might be quite complicated," but of course, because this is what we specialise in, it's like, "No, it's okay, we can do it." And they're
You
like,
know what
"Oh,
we are- yeah.
yeah."
Right.
There's
I
always
think
a solution.
Yeah, I think the surprising thing, and Charlotte talks about this a lot, is okay, it's not a riotous laugh when you're doing a consultation, but you'll be surprised at how upbeat it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
People, when we speak to people, often the barriers to them doing it are they think it's going to be really time consuming, they think it's going to be really expensive, and most of all, a bit like yourself, Hayley, they think it's going to be like sort of complicated
Yeah,
or
I'm not gonna
daunting.
understand what you're
And some people
saying,
think it might be
yeah.
quite morbid, but it's not. We take you to a dark place for 30 seconds. You know, if the worst had happened yesterday, what do you want to see happen? And we make sure that happens. But it's really quite a cathartic process, and you get to the end of it, and at the end of every consultation, the clients virtually say the same thing: "Thank you, and I'm glad I've got that sorted."
Yeah.
Because as Charlotte just mentioned, there's a weight that's sort of lifted from them. But coming back to your original question about everyone needs a will, it's just because if you don't, your last act isn't your last act. It's a set of rules that's meant to meet millions of other adults exactly the same, and it just doesn't work.
No.
And you might be sat there thinking, well, I'm not worth this or I'm not worth that. But if you really think about it, do you have specific wishes about how you'd want your funeral to happen? Do you have...
It's everything. If you've got pets, who you want to look after your
Yeah.
pets.
Yeah.
And your children as well. I hadn't even thought about this. If the
Oh,
worst
yeah.
happened and both parents were in a terrible accident,
What happens then if you haven't got
what happens to
a
the
will in
children if
place?
there hasn't been a will written and they haven't said, you know, who they want to look after the children?
Well, you're relying on the right person to step forward in that scenario because you haven't stipulated it, obviously, in your will. So this is where we tend to see, especially family disputes, because you tend to find who is that right person stepping forward. You've probably got two sets of grandparents.
So more than one's right.
Absolutely, that obviously both want to do the right thing, but you know, who would you choose?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they're both
who's-
probably going to go for that custody, and this is where you start to see the arguments.
The
And
battles
you've got to remember at this point, you've got two children caught up in the midst of this that have lost their parents, potentially a family dispute, and in the really worst case scenario, they can become a ward of the court.
Which is,
It's
that's
a very worst case, but
awful. And I know lots of people watching will think, well, I'm a godparent, so that puts me in charge,
Yeah.
doesn't it, if the
Yeah.
parents... And that's not the case,
That's
is it,
not
at
a
all?
law.
Again, another understandable myth, if you like, because, you know, there's this belief that godparents would step in, but that's not a legal position. Obviously, it's a religious position. Most parents that you speak to, you know, even if they've not dwelled on it, they might have got a thought in their mind about this is the couple that we would want our children to go to if God forbid, the worst happened. But unless that is documented, it's not guaranteed to happen at all. And like Charlotte just said, sadly, it could then be people coming out to look after your children that you wouldn't have chosen for yourself. So again, it's down to this selfless thing. I've got two young boys, and my wife and I have named our guardians in our will, because I think people also think a will is just about leaving your money and your house and your jewellery. But if you're a parent, it's also about passing on your parental responsibility, so you can name your guardians. And that's a weight off our mind. Whilst we hope that we're going to see our children grow into adults, if the worst happened to us yesterday, we also know that the people that we trust and love to bring up our boys, who are like-minded, got the same values, that's where our boys would go to. So again, it's quite a selfless thing in that respect, because, you know, it's peace of mind. We know we don't want to think the worst is going to happen.
No.
But we've planned for the worst. Now we're just hoping for the best. And unfortunately, if you think that that pint with your best mate was enough, or you think mentioning it to your sister is enough, again, there's nothing legally binding there. So if you know who you would want your children to go to in that awful event, document it in a will. Even if that's the single reason for making a will, do that, because the rules of intestacy, again, don't consider that. It's not even a question that comes up.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so bad, because it doesn't care about you. But your will is your will.
It's
Yeah.
your
It's all
wishes,
about you.
yeah.
It's bespoke. It's unique. It's your situation.
You have got a will, haven't you? And you've said this to us. You know, we could ask you at home, have you written a will? Have you got a will? And you'll say, no, I haven't. But you have, because if you haven't physically, you know, written a professional
You've not made
will,
your own.
there will be a will out there, which is the government will, which is so old it doesn't relate. Well, it can't have ever related to anybody really, because we're not the same. None of us are the same.
It's always been kind of an awful situation, but there is a default position. There kind of has to be a default position, because if everyone passed away without a will, it's anarchy, isn't it? What would happen? How would you know which child was telling the truth about what the parents wanted to do? So, and that's the whole point. If you don't make your own will, the sort of list of questions that you can see on the screen there are effectively the rules of intestacy. That's the government will. And it starts by asking a question of the deceased about your marital status, and then it's a series of yes or no questions that ends up at a destination, and whoever that class of beneficiary is, if there's more than one, they inherit in equal shares. And that's it. But it takes no account of you, no account of your family, no account of your friends, no account of specific gifts. Lots of our clients want to leave cash gifts to grandchildren. They might want to make charitable donations. They might have family heirlooms that have been in the family and passed down for years that they want to make sure get passed down to certain people. None of that can be achieved through the rules of intestacy. As you can see on the screen again there, these are all very sort of generic, high-level things, but even down to choosing your own executors, you actually decide who's going to administer your estate. So you choose someone that you trust to do that. Yeah. As we just talked about there, you can decide what age your children inherit, never mind guardianship.
I'd never thought of that.
A lot of parents don't want the kids to inherit 18 because they think it's too young. So again, whilst they don't want to think of passing away whilst the children are minors, this isn't even anecdotally, the vast majority of parents will choose 21, 23, in some cases even 25.
And could you split, could you give them a bit at 18, a bit at 20?
Absolutely.
You've got the complete choice, haven't you?
Yeah.
It's your will. And this is the whole reason we do these shows, is your last act on planet Earth will be that. It'll be yours. So you'll decide how your children benefit from your estate, or how your spouse does. And you'll make sure that what you want to happen will happen. But if you don't pick up that phone tonight or send us that text, and you did pass away yesterday, you will get the government will. And that's really the point that we always try and make to people, because I hear it all the time, you know, what do you do for a living? I say, oh, I'm a will writer. Oh, I've been meaning to make a will. Yeah. And of course, somewhat sarcastic, I say, I've never heard that before, because we've all done it, we've all put things off, and I understand that. There's more sexy things to spend our money on, that's what we think. But I love what you said tonight, you know, okay, Christmas is just over the horizon, we've got snow falling behind us. Yeah. It's not an obvious gift, but this could be an amazing Christmas gift for your family.
Absolutely.
Because what a will does for you and for your family can't be replicated. The government will fail you and your family, but your will won't. And if you write it with someone like us, touch wood, we've never had a will fail. We've got over 200,000 satisfied clients. We carry professional indemnity insurance, so if we did get something wrong, you and your family are insured. So use a professional and do it right. Do something amazing for yourself and your family.
Charlotte, if anybody's already got a will and they obviously it could be way out of date, can they still take advantage of the offers?
Absolutely, yeah, because things could have changed, circumstances could have changed. Is it even signed correctly? You know, you need to check all of these things and make sure it's still relevant to you.
Because a lot of people watching, they might think, well, oh, I'm thinking about doing one of those templates.
Or this gets Ian going.
I'm going to do one of those templates and write it myself. That can go horribly wrong, can't it?
Yeah.
And you do, and you do have to pay for those as well. It really upsets him.
Well, it's confused me for 25 years, because it's a strange thing that these templates even exist. I understand why they are, because like most things in life, you can do a lot of things yourself. You can service your own car, but most people choose not to because they haven't got the tools or the expertise, so you take it to a garage. You know, Charlotte mentioned earlier my favourite thing to say, because, you know, I've had this ongoing issue with my
That's why it came
tooth.
to my mind.
But I didn't go online and so, how do I fix my infected tooth? You know, I went straight to a dentist because, you know, they're trained, it's their profession. And yet we're professionals at writing wills, but people will decide to pay for it. It's not that these templates are even free.
No.
Yeah.
You've still got to buy them, but the template will give you no advice. So at the risk of sounding facetious, unless you are yourself a qualified will writer and you're up to date with all the current legislation, all the current tax allowances, all the nuances in the law about writing a will and all the correct terminology, unless you're totally across all of that, I don't know why you take the risk, because a template's not going to give you any advice. It's not going to contact you to make sure that it's signed correctly. It's not going to offer a free validation service to make sure that it has been signed, dated and witnessed correctly, because that's a really important thing as well. Even in this digital age, unless that will is signed and witnessed by 2 independent witnesses, a wet signature, it's not a valid document. And we help through the whole process, not just from the point where you contact us tonight, but even after you've received your will, we'll make sure that you're happy with it and we'll make sure that you get it signed, dated and witnessed correctly.
And that must be even more devastating, actually, if you've written a will, but because you've done it incorrectly,
It's not valid.
It's not valid. And one of our producers, actually, a stepfather,
Yeah.
put this poorly, and he's written a will but hasn't signed it, so it's
yeah.
not valid. And you told us as well about a couple, an older couple, that they wrote their own will, but because they have how they wrote it, it could have been horrendous.
Other gifts.
I affectionately refer to myself as a bit of a geek, but only in this area. And, you know, we'll sometimes use terminology, but when we're speaking to you, we'll make sure that you understand everything. But we'll use terminology you wouldn't ordinarily hear, like we'll use things like first death and second death, which sounds a bit weird. But when we're talking to a couple, there's always someone that passes away first and then someone that passes away second.
Yeah.
And this couple had used templates. They were actually reasonably well written, truthfully, but they ended up creating a real problem, because what he'd done when he wrote them is he wanted to leave a £20,000 cash gift to each of his grandchildren. At the time that they wrote the will, as we understood it, there was only 3 grandchildren. When he'd passed away, they'd not updated the will and there was 8. So now there's £160,000 to go to these grandchildren. But their estate, he owned the property outright, the gentleman, and his wife obviously lived with him. The estate was effectively asset rich but cash poor, if that makes sense. So the house was worth hundreds of thousands, but there was only about £10,000 in an ISA, so there wasn't physically enough cash to give to the grandchildren. If we'd have given that advice, we'd have talked about that gift being made on second death.
Right.
So that,
After his wife, yeah.
yeah, because now the grandkids, and there were a couple of grandkids who knew this money was coming to them, who were creating issues, and of course there's a legally binding document that's saying, whilst he wants everything else to go to his wife, there's £160,000 that's due as specific gifts to the grandchildren, which is obvious that wasn't their intention, because the same was written in his wife's will.
Yeah.
Right.
So if she'd passed away, effectively the grandkids would be getting £320,000.
Oh,
and when he's
gosh.
speaking to it was our clients who phoned us, who'd made a will with us and said, my dad's done this. She was saying, no, that's not what Dad wanted. And it was like, but that's what's
written
written.
down, yeah.
And that's the risk, is if you don't
have the
know,
knowledge,
you don't know.
Yeah, like
I wouldn't pull my own tooth.
No,
No,
exactly.
That's
and
the bottom
it
line.
makes complete sense.
Exactly.
And the other thing, and I touched on this briefly, because I do think a lot of people watching, if you're single, you'll think I don't need a will. Will you tell us just quickly that young lad that died, well, he was in his 40s, I think.
Yeah.
Because this is a horrible story. He didn't have he didn't have a wife or children.
It stayed with me because I saw this as an interview, and obviously doing what we do for a living, I was quite invested in the story. And basically, it was a mom and her son, and they were talking about the loss of mom's youngest son, totally unexpectedly suddenly. So it's already heartbreaking.
Yeah.
He was a successful guy. From memory, I think he was a medical consultant, so he was successful academically, successful career, wealthy. But had never married and had never had children, and we'll never know why he hadn't made a will. We'll never know the reason why he didn't get around to it, whether it was because he was still in his 40s or whether he just thought it might go to his mom or his brother. We'll never understand that. But the backstory that came to light was when he was born, his dad decided that that family life wasn't for him, and his dad left, basically leaving his wife to bring up, effectively a single parent to bring up the 2 boys. And he was never heard from. So he had no involvement in the children's lives, not even birthday cards. So he's out of their lives completely. And the gentleman that died never knew his father. But because he died without a will, he's died intestate. So he gets the government will. The first question that was asked is, are you married in a civil partnership? The answer to that question, of course, was no. The next question that was asked is, do you have children? The answer to that was no. The next question on the government will is, do you have parents? The answer to that was yes. And the outcome was that his entire estate was split equally between his parents.
That's so his mum, and she had to find his dad.
As the next of kin, then she basically had to, they've effectively had to track down
The man that left her all those years ago.
yeah, and not been heard from for decades, and say, just to let you know, our youngest son has passed away, the son that you never really met and had nothing to do with, but here's half of his estate.
Gosh.
And when people saw that and heard it, you could hear the gas and you could see the shaking heads and people going, well, that's not fair and that's not right, and almost a disbelief. But unfortunately, that's the law. So, and it is literally, it's that simple. You either pass away with your own will, or you pass away with the government will. There is no in between. It's not enough to say, John knows what I want to happen, or my son knows what I want, or my husband knows, or my wife knows. It has to be in a legally binding document. That's why we do these shows. So if you're thinking, I don't need a will,
That's what we were saying.
Ask yourself why you think that. And who's put that notion in your head.
Everybody needs a will, don't they? I don't care what situation you're in. And we were the same. We hadn't got a will. We presumed we'd been together 33, 34 years. I will work it out one show. And I think it's 34 next year.
Is it?
And we know that our family knows we are as one. You know, we're Shailey.
Yeah.
We are as one. So if I went, it would all go to Sean. If Sean went, it would all go to me. It would not have been the case at all. The government will that would have fallen into place would not have allowed that to happen. And that is terrifying. All we'd worked for all those years, just gone. It's so important. And you know,
it's so easy, that's the thing.
I think you think it's really complicated. Do you think it's going to be really expensive?
I think for me, it's taking that first step. And it is, that's why we didn't get round to it for such a long time.
Everything that, you know, it'll be Christmas next, won't it? So, I'll do it after Christmas. And then all of a sudden, it'll be spring. And I'll go, I better sort the garden out now. And then all of a sudden, you're coming into, I better get this holiday sorted for the summer. And then before you know it, it'll be next Christmas.
Yeah.
I say about my mum's patio. It must be 2 years. It's dangerous, her patio. It's horrendous in the winter, and we still haven't got it done. And do you know why we haven't got it done? Not because, we can't afford to do it, or, we don't want it. We desperately want it done. We haven't taken that first step. We haven't got someone to come round and give us a price and say when they can do it. It's that first step, because you keep putting it off. And that first step tonight is so affordable, is so easy.
Yeah.
And you can't afford, I think, to miss out on it. It's your last gift to your loved ones, making sure what you've worked so hard for actually happens. It's the best Christmas present that you could give them.
Well, it's a present for yourself and for your entire family. And today, you're just making that first step. You don't need any documentation. You're just securing these fabulous prices that Simpler Law have got for us. So the will itself, the suggested retail price of £209, that's a great price, I think. However, the ShopOnTV exclusive offer price is just £89. Now, Simpler Law are also going to offer you 4 interest-free instalments, just £22.25 on your first of 4 payments there for the will itself.
So affordable. I mean, think more about you spend on coffee. I mean, I don't think you'll even notice that, and you've done the best thing you could, I think, ever do. Could you imagine if you didn't write a will and something did happen yesterday? And I don't know what happens, but I like to think that you can look down, and you're looking down, and all the family are falling out because they know what you wanted to happen and it's not happening, and everyone's so upset they've lost you, but now they're being pulled apart because it's going into that terrible government will, which is completely wrong for everybody. Now, lasting power of attorney, we're going to go into a bit more detail about that next. £349 is the price it should be, £179, but only up until Friday. These prices are just till Friday at close of business. However, do it tonight. You know that you will forget if you don't do it right now. You've got a great saving of £170 there, and you can split that to 4 payments of £44.75. Now, you might think, well, I'm going to do the will, and then a bit later on in the show, you might think, oh, I wish I'd done the will and lasting power of attorney. It's the biggest saving, but I know the team will change if you decide you want to add that on.
Yeah, they'll honour
And it's a
these great deal prices that we've got for you. But remember, only up until close of business on Friday. So if you want to go for the will and the lasting power of attorney, that should be £558. It's down to £249. Or if you want to spread the cost, £62.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. Don't forget, the first 250 clients will also receive that free book. It's worth £25, What My Family Should Know. In that book, you can record everything from your utility bills, things like passwords for your phone, for your computer. It's all in that one place, so you know where everything is.
Lots of people that miss out want to buy this. It's £25. It's worth every penny of that, but the first 250 people will actually get it. So another reason to secure the actual offers tonight. And that is, you know, if someone does die, you're hunting for bits of paper, and actually not everything's on bits of paper anymore. And did they have a secret place? And where will I find that? And lots of things can get lost, whereas all that information is in there, and actually passwords to phones and tablets. I hadn't even thought of that. So important. Ian, how was that book born?
Two big things that came out of putting this book together were, it was basically born out of our estate administration department. So when you pass away, you might have to go through what's called probate. And as Sean said, you have to gather in the assets.
Yeah.
And two really big things that popped up were missing pensions and missing life insurance policies, where perhaps clients thought they might have something or didn't have something. And we dug a little bit deeper and found out some quite staggering figures, actually, that in the UK it's believed there's £5 billion of pension pots that have gone unclaimed. But if you think about it, do you know every job that your parents had or your grandparents had?
No, from 18 or no.
They might have had a job for 4 or 5 years at a company where they were paying into a pension that's frozen, but if it never gets found or claimed, it's just sat there, and that should be coming, you know, to the estate. So there's £5 billion in unclaimed pensions. There's £2 billion in unclaimed life insurance policies that are paid up, they've never been claimed on. You know, and the chances of the client being 127 now are quite slim, so it should have been claimed on. And it's believed there's £850 million floating around in UK bank accounts that, again, have never been fetched, just sat there, and it's with those institutions when it should be with the family. So that's how we came with this book. That's why it's received, well, it's been well received, because it does help you just sit down and take stock. And then there's things that you mentioned earlier which are really important. We don't think to leave our PIN for access to our phones or our tablets.
No.
We don't always think to leave our passwords, and you know, we don't even have like photo albums these days. You know,
They're all digital, aren't they?
Digital banks, it's in the cloud or whatever. It's like, do your family know how to access those things? Do they know how to access your emails? Do they know how to access your digital life? So that's what came out of this book, and that's why it's been so well received.
It is a brilliant book. I really do think, I did used to say you should have it from birth, but that's a bit early, really. From about 17, I think everybody should have that book and fill in. So when that time does come, every bit of information is in there. It's only the first 250 people that will get that, and it's worth £25. So do get in contact, and it's so easy to get into contact with us tonight. And, of course, secure the prices that you're seeing. A will is just £89, but you do need to secure that price. So either go simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV and go directly to Simpler Law. They'll get back to you a little bit later on today. Or jump on the phones. The team are right there right now. They're always really busy. They'll answer a couple of questions if you've got them. But don't need any information, do we?
No, that's the great thing. You're just securing those offers so that you can start the ball rolling, taking that first step. So if you want to contact the call centre, 0333 600 2600. They're there right through to 3 a.m, ready to take your calls. If they're this kind of time, they're normally really busy, so just hang on if they are busy. Or if you want to, you can just text the word will, W-I-L-L, to 66777. That way you don't have to speak to anyone if you don't want to.
Sometimes we're a bit like that, though. We talk all the time at work, and you'll think, oh, they'd always want to talk. I'm just like, oh, we're like, you ring. No, you ring. You go and answer the door. No, you go and answer the door. I don't know who it is.
We don't need to see anyone else.
We're absolutely hopeless. So I love the fact you can just text Will, speak to no one, go to bed, and you know you've taken that full, that first step to make sure what you want to happen actually happens. Perhaps you're used to going through our website, ShopOnTV.co.uk. You can do exactly that. Scroll down on our homepage and you'll find sort of halfway down, there we are, Simpler Law. You can click onto that. That takes you through to their website. You see all the price. There you go. You see the prices: £89 for the will, £179 for the lasting power of attorney, and then you can do the two together. Don't worry if you choose just one and you're going to just do the will. And when we talk about lasting power of attorney, you think, oh, I wish I'd done that. I know the team will be quite happy to change it because you've secured the prices. That's all you're doing tonight, is securing those deals. And
when you do get in touch, don't be afraid of all legal terminology and things such as that.
Oh, no.
They're so friendly. It really is that hand-holding service, and it's all over the phone, so you can do it in the comfort of your own home.
We knew Simpler Law, not because we work with them now, because we actually dealt with them doing my mum's lasting power of attorney. Yeah. And we honestly, I'm hopeless at anything technical or
well, you worry about everything.
I'm the biggest worrier in the world. I worry that I haven't said thank you enough. I worry about absolutely.
Or please.
Or please. Yeah, please is a big thing. I didn't say please. I don't think I said. I honestly, I worry about absolutely everything. It was so simple. We didn't actually know anything when we got in touch with the team and spoke to the team. It was a simple conversation, and Charlotte, honestly, you got every bit of information from us without us even realising. You made it so simple. Yeah. She became a friend, the lady we dealt with. You know, it was lovely.
And that's what we're there for. You've got the answers. It's just about finding out what they are, and that's all it is. It's just a conversation. But taking that first step today is all you need to do. You don't need to have answers today. You don't need to have answers on consultation. We'll take you through that process. Like you say, we'll hold your hand all the way through it, and it will just be a conversation, and we'll produce a document that is right for you.
And you don't rush us. You know, we had a really lovely conversation, and not at any point did I think a question was silly. I can't ask that question. I felt really comfortable that I could ask you anything. And then afterwards, I knew I could just email it. I forgot to ask that. Is that all right? So it's all in your own time. It was just lovely. Yeah. And lasting power of attorney, I don't think a lot of people watching will actually realise what lasting power of attorney is, because I think lots of us know what a will is. I don't think we realise how important it is that we have a will written legally. But a lot of people, lasting power of attorney, we wouldn't have known.
Unless you've experienced it through family, you probably don't. You'll have heard the terminology, but we're going to explain exactly what everything is and how it works, aren't we? Lasting power of attorney, two types, like we say. So let's start with, there's a financial one, isn't there?
There is, yeah. So property and financial affairs. So power of attorney is where you nominate who you trust to make your decisions for you if you've lost the capacity to do so yourself. So it could be family, it could be friends. But the financial document means that those people you nominate can access bank accounts, so they can pay any bills that you've got.
So if you become poorly and you can't take control of your own financial affairs, someone else can.
It could be ill health, it could be a freak accident, but you can donate that power to multiple people, one person.
I love what it says on the bottom of your screen there. Essentially, you choose someone to trust to manage your affairs, and in the eyes of those institutions, they basically become you.
Yeah, they step into your shoes.
Like you were saying, it doesn't have to be one person if you don't want it to be, does it?
No, it could be more than one person. It might be multiple people that you trust. Could be, 2 or 3 children, for example. Could be friends. Again, it's about you making the choice that's right for you.
That's the key.
That's all we need you to do today, and making sure that it happens. So that the financial one, as I said, it's bank accounts, claiming benefits. If you've got benefits, pensions, these things still need to keep going.
It's all those things.
Misconceptions, isn't there?
Dealing with the property as well. Sometimes property gets tied up if you've got a jointly held property. And maybe you want to sell that property. Maybe and everything just stops. I think that's what people don't realise. Is I think people think that everything will keep moving, but everything just stops.
Well, you'd think as a husband or a wife of that person, you could just take control. I would think for my mum, everybody knows I'd have her best interest at heart. I could just take control of all those things, and you can't, can you?
No, we try not to sound too clever when we try and make this point. But if you sat listening to this now and thinking, well, yeah, we're married and we could deal with each other's accounts, just ask yourself, if you walked into your wife's bank today and said, oh yeah, I'm her husband, can I access her accounts? You know what the answer's going to be. It's like, no. Yeah. And yet there's this myth or there's this belief that now your wife's lost capacity through ill health or an accident, that suddenly when you walk in the bank, oh, she's not very well now, that suddenly they're going to say, oh, that's okay, then you can have the money now. And of course, that's not the case at all.
It's the worst.
Actually, she's become even more protected because now she's vulnerable because she can't make decisions for herself. So the only way to actually get that power to the people that you trust either the person or the people that you trust, is to make a lasting power of attorney. And the only time to do that is now.
Yeah.
Because
When
you've got the capacity.
to make the decision.
I bet you get lots of phone calls when it's too late. That's what they want to do, but it's too late to do
Those
it.
are the two words, unfortunately. It's not a nice thing. We call it the too late phone call. And we have to explain that, unfortunately, now that your parent or your loved one hasn't got the capacity to make a lasting power of attorney, the only alternative is to apply for something called a deputyship order through the Court of Protection. And the thing is we don't know that person that's lost capacity, and the person that's phoning us might not be the person they would have chosen for themselves. This again all comes back to control.
Yeah.
The reason we do these shows and talk about wills and lasting power of attorney is if you don't make these documents for yourself, if you don't take control, someone else is going to do that for you. Either the government is going to decide what happens when you die through the rules of intestacy, or someone that you may not have chosen for yourself is going to have to go through the Court of Protection. Or even if it is the right person, you're still putting them through thousands of pounds of costs that they've got to find initially.
And it is a huge,
It's a huge financial burden.
And you've got to physically find that. And what you want to do is care for your loved one who's poorly.
Yeah.
And you're having to go through all this. And it's a lot of money.
Oh, it's a huge amount of money. That's if you do it yourself. And most people, when they're trying to deal with the courts, end up turning to a professional.
So that's without any professional advice.
That's assuming that you can deal with all the court applications yourself, all the hearings, all the documentation that's required, and it's quite daunting. And all the while, all you want to do is care for your partner or your loved one. I mean, you can see there on the screen that the application fee is 408, the hearing fee if the S1's 494. There's a supervision fee that's ongoing. That's an annual supervision fee, because the court will supervise you if you are given a deputyship order, and they might even put restrictions in place, like if you want to spend more than £500, for example,
you have to go.
You might have to seek permission. So there's plenty of stories and there's plenty of stuff documented out there. There's again plenty of things online that you can see for yourself. Where there's one lady who, unfortunately, her husband got knocked down in a country road. He was put in a coma. He managed all the financial affairs. They didn't have a lasting power of attorney. And she eventually got a deputyship order through the Court of Protection, which was hard enough. But then she couldn't even pay her own daughter's tuition fees because it was over the limit that they had set. So she she had to ask permission to pay her own daughter's tuition fee. So
it makes your hair's gone end.
Well, again, it's just and it sounds like we're being quite down about this, but we're not. We're just pointing out it's all this bad stuff's always going to happen to somebody else.
I think it just points out that, because I think we presume things happen, don't we? We presume that you would be able to look after.
It's those misconceptions,
Absolutely. No, it's my husband, it's my wife. Of course, I'm going to look after, and I should be able to be in control of her financial affairs. I'd presume I could do that for Mum. Everybody knows that I've only got her best intentions at heart. But by law, that is not the case. And it's not just when we came to you, Charlotte, we did come for the actual financial side of it, because that's all we'd really heard about. And we thought we must get that sorted. And we were so relieved to get that sorted. But when we spoke to you, you said there was another lasting power of attorney. And when you told us about this one, I was like, this, Mum, is just as important. We need to get both of these.
Absolutely, yes. The second document is health and welfare. So this is more of an emotional side.
More personal.
Yeah. So this is about where that person's living. So again, you're nominating the people that you trust. So it's that choice element. But those people can again step into your shoes and decide where you're living. So if they want you to live at home with them, they can make that choice. If you do need to go into care, they can decide where that care is. They can discuss even things, or make choices, should I say, on what you're wearing and what you're eating. If you're a vegetarian, it could be a religion that you have where you want to wear an item of clothing. These are really personal things that only your loved ones are going to know. So again, allowing them the opportunity to take care of you and do what's best for you. And I think it's really important with these documents as well to say this isn't just an elderly, age-related document. A lot of clients will think, when I'm older, but again, you associate with things like dementia is more prevalent now, but any ill health that you have, it could be anything, you don't know what's around the corner. It's just about having that document in place.
My best friend
should the worst happen.
Knocked over by a car 9 years ago and she's still in a care home. And if we hadn't have had that control. She was, you know, she's
She's a
vegetarian,
vegetarian,
and
Yeah,
she
yeah.
really has a way that she loves to dress. We would have had none of that.
It's all taken out of your hands, isn't it?
This is the thing, yeah, and these things are really, really important because it's what makes you you.
Yeah.
And it's what your loved
Oh,
ones
that's
want to
great,
do
yeah.
for you.
And we've needed to sort of move her
Yeah.
as well because we
Yeah.
haven't been happy with a certain place and things, and that
It
would have been
sounds
out.
when you go through sort of what health and welfare, the powers that you've got, if you like, which is basically a voice to care for that person, is sometimes it sounds quite trivial, you know, what you wear, what you eat, where you live. It kind of sounds a little bit wishy-washy, but actually, if you ever find yourself in a position where your loved one has lost their voice and they've not donated it to you and you're going... I heard of a story recently where there was a woman who'd fallen out with her sister for whatever reason decades ago and made it clear that she never wanted to have anything to do with her, never wanted to see her again. And this sister found out that the sister she'd fallen out with found out she was in a care home and started attending the home.
Oh, God.
And the family only found out sort of retrospectively.
Oh, God.
And they were saying, even though the poor woman had got dementia and perhaps
not what
wasn't
she
fully
would've
aware, they're
wanted.
like, she made it clear. And you go, oh, wow. And so these things that seem quite trivial and quite simple can be massive. And I think you're quite right. People understand the financial side, but there's also definitely an emotional side and a you know, how do you want to be cared for?
Yeah.
And you can give your voice to a person or people that you know have got your best interests at heart, but you can only do it when you've got capacity.
So,
And to do it right is so important.
yeah, again, it's
as
like
well,
when
isn't it?
you write the will, it's so important. Now, if our viewers at home are watching and they're thinking, what do I need to get out? What do I need to have ready? To secure the deals, they don't need anything, do they?
No, nothing. We just need you to have the intention and just make the right step today. We'll take care of the rest
Just
for
the
you.
start.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just that's the hardest part. When you're taking that
Yeah.
first step, we're there then. We're there to
Yeah.
help you all the way through consultation, getting them signed, everything.
You've
You
got
don't
the
need any
questions,
answers.
and without knowing, we've got the answers.
Yeah.
But just a simple conversation like this.
Because it is your document. That's the whole point. The reason we do these shows is we want you to end up with your document.
What you want, yeah.
You've got control then. You know, the way this works is we'll send you out things ahead of the appointment as well. You know, we'll make an appointment that's convenient for you to let you think about a few things. But as Charlotte said, you don't even really have to worry about that because it's our job to make sure you get the right document. If you're not happy when that consultation takes place, when you're talking to Charlotte or a member of her team, we'll give you your money back. Yeah. Well, there's a 14-day period from when you start your consultation which you can change your mind completely and say, do you know what, this is not for me.
Great.
But that doesn't really happen
No.
because
No, of course
I agree that the hardest thing is actually you're perhaps listening to me now, the phone's probably next to you and it's the easiest thing in the world to type the word will and send it to 66777. But actually there might be something stopping you from doing that. But I promise if you do that when we speak to you, you'll never ever regret making that decision because a will it's not like a bad haircut or a bad holiday. You know, we've all made bad choices, but actually making a will is not a bad choice. You don't regret having that document
It's like
in
you
place.
say, Charlotte, it's that relief that for most people, isn't it, with a will or a lasting power of attorney?
Yeah, you probably don't even know you've got that weight on your shoulders until you've actually gone through the process. So no one ever regrets writing a will. So it's just taking that first step today. That's all we're asking you to do. Come and speak to us and see how you feel then. Like Ian says, if it's not for you, that's fine. You can refund within that 14 days. But very rare that happens.
And with
you might even have a bit of fun.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the strange thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what you
People
read,
go,
yeah.
I wasn't expecting to laugh. But,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's because
Yeah.
we need to know about you and obviously we find out about your family and we give you the best advice that we can. And the more you tell us, the more, you know, the better we can advise you. But at the end of the day, it's your document. It's up to you what advice you take from us. You'll take all of it, some of it, or absolutely none of it, as long as you're happy with the document at the end of it. And the important thing is if you take that all-important, arguably most difficult step tonight and say, I'm going to phone the client care team, I'm going to send a text, is you will have a will that's yours.
Yeah.
And most importantly, that means you've got rid of the government will.
Yeah.
And you've taken control. That's huge.
We're so good at putting things off, and that's when things can go really horribly wrong. And when you see the government will, that government will is not going to be what you want it to be. That lasting power of attorney, you'll think, why didn't I do that lasting power of attorney? This is the government will. So if you're at home thinking you haven't got a will, you haven't written one, well, actually, you have got a will. It's right there. And that that was written years ago.
Over 100 years, isn't it?
And
It's about to celebrate its 100th birthday. It was 1925.
There we go.
Don't.
Society was a little bit different.
And
Yes,
yeah, it doesn't
very
relate to
much so.
anything. I don't think it would have completely related to things then, but back then people got married, perhaps had 2 children, and they stayed
No
married.
second marriages,
Yeah, so
no mixed families, no
that's it.
blended families.
Honestly, the government will is not right for anybody, but that's what will happen. And that could be your family who are devastated because they've lost you, and now big fallouts because they know what you wanted, but what you wanted, it's no good your eldest son knowing, it's no good you've told the kids, you've told your wife, you've told your husband. We've been together, I'm sure it's 34 years.
She's not sure.
Next year, I think, in March. And, or was it?
91 it
Yeah,
was.
91. It was, yeah. So
Hey.
34 years. We've done it. And we've been together virtually every minute since then. And we know our family would expect that if anything happened to either of us, it would go to the other. And it wouldn't have done. It wouldn't matter what our family thought. They could stand in any court and say, that's what... we would have had the government actual will, and that wouldn't have happened. Which, thank goodness we'd written a will, because we just didn't realise that was the case.
And that's why the best offer for you to go for is to go for the lasting power of attorney and the will. Obviously, the team will talk you through once you make your appointment, once you've
huge
started
saving.
that process. But the saving there is huge. It should be £558. It's down to £249, and you've got 4 interest-free instalments.
You've got choices, and when you look at all the choices, if you want to do the will on its own, if you want to do the lasting power of attorney on its own, if you want to do them both, all you're doing right now, if you're not sure at the minute, you're thinking, I definitely want the will, get in touch, secure that price, that will price, and then if you decide when you speak to the team or you get up in the morning, you think, I wish I'd done the will and lasting power of attorney, I know the team will sort it out and make sure that is the case, that you're securing these deals. These deals, by the way, they're not forever. These are only until Friday, the close of business, this Friday coming. So don't even leave it till later on today. Do it right now. All you're doing is securing the price. So right now, £89 for your will. On Saturday, when you remember that you should have done it the day before, it's gone back up to £209. So you're spending 120 extra. You'll kick yourself, won't you? Do it now, secure that deal at £89, and you can forget about it. Just do it right now and split that cost over 4 payments, £22.25. I think that's such an incredible price if you actually relate it to what you do spend in, perhaps your coffee. The price of coffee, and think of the price of petrol. I just woke up last night and bought another top, and I do it constantly, and I don't need another top.
Was that an accidental purchase?
I call it sleep shopping.
Apparently.
Yeah, sleep shopping.
My wife's made it very clear to me that a parcel a day keeps sadness away.
I like that, a parcel a
Ian,
day
why did you tell her
keeps
that?
sadness away.
Because if I've got to suffer,
Thanks
Sean,
for
you have
sharing,
as well.
yes, yeah, thanks for that.
Sometimes I get a parcel and I open it, I can't even remember ordering it.
I like what you've said there, though, because obviously one of the things that we've tried to do in doing these shows, and it is exclusive through ShopOnTV, these offers can't be got anywhere else, is people think it's going to be expensive. And we decided to do it over those 4 payments as well, so that we want to give as much access to this service as we possibly can. And it sounds dead cheesy, but it's absolutely true. It's just over 71 pence a day, the equivalent of the cost of a will. And we will spend money on things that we want to, but we don't always spend things on something that we need, and everyone needs a will.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me when you talk about coffees, I sit here giggling to myself because I travel around quite a bit, and I'll often stop at a certain coffee place and I'll happily spend £4, £5, sometimes £6 on one coffee. But I'll walk into a supermarket to buy a jar of coffee, and unless it's on offer, I'm like, I'm not paying £5 for that. It's absolutely ludicrous.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And that puts it all in perspective, doesn't it?
We'll insure things like our mobile phones. We'll insure our boiler, and we'll insure our car, and we'll insure our contents. We'll insure our pets. We'll spend money protecting lots of things that we think we care about and forget about looking after ourselves and our loved ones. And it's such a small amount of money. We'll pay to watch TV channels forever.
Yeah.
And we'll pay these insurances forever and probably never claim on them, but a will is going to be used. And this is only for 4 months.
Yeah.
My mum realised the other day she's been claiming on she's been paying insurance on her dishwasher that she uses now once a week because it's only her, and so she fills it up, and she's like, why am I paying? It was like, I don't know, £30 a month or something. I was like, my goodness, you could have bought 100.
Bought another one.
Actual dishwashers. So think logically about what you use your money for. A will is so important, as is lasting power of attorney. We'll give you those prices again. Lasting power of attorney, which again we will go back into more detail if you've missed that, is so important. Should be £349. It's down to only until Friday, but please do it tonight. Just secure that price. You don't need to speak to anybody apart from, say, I want to secure that deal. You don't need any answers. Secure it right now, because you'll probably forget, and Saturday you'll remember, and it's gone back up another £170 to £349. So £179, and you can split that with 4 payments of £44.75. But it's really great if you're sitting at home thinking, I really should do all of this, to do the two together.
Yeah, the suggested retail price on that, remember, £558. You're saving so much more than you're spending. It's down to £249, or on those 4 interest-free payments, £62.25. That's a £309 saving against the suggested retail price. Don't forget, the first 250 clients will also receive that free What My Family Should Know book worth £25. That's where you keep everything.
Another reason to do it tonight,
definitely.
isn't it? That book is absolutely brilliant. Lots of people try and buy that after they've all gone for £25. It's worth every single penny of it, but get it for free by securing that deal right now.
And do it right now. As we say, close of business Friday, but if you start the ball rolling now, you take that first step. To get in touch, simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. You can call the call centre. The team are right there, right now, waiting to take your calls, and they're there right through till 3 a.m. 0333 600 2600.
And they're a fabulous team, aren't they?
Charlotte's team. Charlotte's part of that team.
They are.
And they're such a great team, really friendly and ready to take those calls up in Lincoln. If you want to text, however, this is nearly always the busiest on these nighttime shows that we do, isn't it?
You might not want to talk to anybody, really. Perhaps you've been talking all day at work, and the last thing you want to do now is speak to anybody. Just text Will to 66777. It's as simple as that. Job done. You've taken that first step. You've actually done it. And the great thing is that's it then. You don't need any information. The team will get back to you a little bit later on today after 11 a.m. because they know you've been up late with us. But that is the simplest way. And it's always that first step, isn't it? We're rubbish at, we must do it, you must do it. And then you regret and you kick yourself because you didn't. I keep telling you, I did it with a weekend between Christmas and New Year. Amazing deal on a weekend away, 4 days. It was an offer until the 31st of October. I got in touch on the 2nd of November. Well, actually, it was in my basket. It was in my basket on the website. It was there. I looked at it. I looked at it every day. Look at that deal. It's great. That's pricey.
Now we're
Shall we
staying
do
at
that?
home.
Shall we do that? And then on the 2nd of November, it had gone up £600.
I think the important thing, Sean, is Hayley's gotten over it.
Yeah, I'm
It's
well
good.
over
She's
it.
not
yeah.
bitter.
We're
She's
not
bitter
We're
at
not
all.
going away between Christmas
She's not
and New
annoyed
Year.
by it.
No, not at all.
No, I've got
look,
my outfits planned. I've done it all. But
It's easily done. Life gets in the way.
it does
doesn't
get in the
Yeah.
way.
And that's why it's so important that you get in touch tonight
That's
and
it,
get
right now.
started. You're taking that first step on something that's so much more important than
And
a
it's
holiday.
so easy. You don't need any information, and it's so affordable.
Yeah.
But make sure you get those prices. It's incredible deals, and we do think this will be the last time we have Simpler Law here before Christmas as well. So and you can, you can trust Simpler Law. Look at the Trustpilot reviews; they are incredible. The team become friends.
Yeah,
don't they?
and lots of the team get mentioned in these reviews. Need to say this, I wanted to rewrite my will and saw the advert. When Ollie phoned me today, he was very helpful and provided me with excellent customer service, helping me and explaining things when I wasn't sure about something. And that's what you want, that hand-holding service that Charlotte talked about. Sandra said, I never recommend any services, but I definitely recommend Simpler Law. Very knowledgeable staff, explained every step in detail and provided further advice and information. It's such an important first step for you to take. And I think we should go right back to the beginning and explain what a will is and why everybody needs one, Ian.
For me, it's control. Everyone needs a will because it's our last act on planet Earth. And when I say it's our last act, it's only our last act if we've made our own will. So then it's our document. I think what a lot of people don't necessarily realise is if they don't create their own will, then one is given to them by the government. It's called the rules of intestacy. So it's a set of rules that was created, it's put into legislation in 1925, so when society and basically things were very, very different. But obviously there has to be a default position. And I think from talking to clients, there's a lot of myth, there's a lot of rumour out there, there's a lot of misinformation where people think relationships, like unmarried couples, are common law husband and wife.
Well,
So,
we did, yeah.
so they think there's some kind of spousal connection there when there's none, unfortunately.
It doesn't exist, that, does it? Because that blew me
doesn't.
away when we went and did our will.
It doesn't.
I was like, but we are common law. And he's like, yeah, that doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't. There's legal positions, you know, and well, unfortunately, it's not really unfortunately. It's you're either married or in a civil partnership, or you're not.
Yeah.
There's the rules of intestacy, for example, ask of the person that's passed away, are you married in a civil partnership? They certainly don't ask, are you in a relationship? Were you cohabiting? Have you been together 33, 34 years? Although I think we've established 34 years next year. That's good.
Well, in March.
That's impressive, and one of you should get a medal. And but in all seriousness, whilst everyone that knows you, and anyone even watching this show tonight will think, well, if you've been together 34 years, of course you're a couple, you're not going to be seen as anything different. But that's sadly where it falls down, because the rules of intestacy do not see you as a couple. It makes no provision for unmarried partners. So if an unmarried partner passes away, there's nothing going to the other partner. And that can be devastating.
Yeah, gosh, yeah.
And today it's not unusual at all. In fact, it's half of the country, give or take, that are on a second marriage or perhaps in a different relationship and perhaps have children from previous relationships. So when we're speaking to those people, that's even more important that they make a will, because the rules of intestacy, as melodramatic as this sounds, rips those families apart because it only follows bloodline.
So what would that mean then? If you had, so it's a family then that both parents have got children from different relationships. They all live together, have been living together for years. They don't see themselves as stepsisters or brothers. They're brothers and sisters.
I'm smiling because it reminds me, I saw some clients a few years ago, and he was a proper Yorkshireman, and he knew what he knew, and he was arms folded, and he wasn't particularly interested in speaking to me. Why would he be? But I'd been asked to go and see them by friends of theirs, and his wife was very welcome, and he was very like, I don't think we need a will, son. I'm saying that's fine. But I found out very quickly that they were on their second marriage, and this time round they'd actually been married longer than on their first relationships.
Okay.
But they both had a daughter from their previous marriages. But as far as they were concerned, they were a nuclear family.
Right.
They weren't a blended family.
Yeah.
You know, the sisters weren't stepsisters or sisters, and I get that. They've been together for decades. But all I did is say to this gentleman, I said, if you passed away first, everything would go to your wife under the rules of intestacy, the government will, which is what you've got today. He went, yep.
Great.
And I went, yeah. I said, then that's great. I said, but then when your wife passes away, it will all go to just her daughter and not to yours. He went, nope. And we had a bit of yep, no. And I said, look, find out for yourself. I said, I've got no agenda here other than to give you this information. And he had a quick look and he went, I didn't know that. And then a bit of panic came over him, because I saw that moment where he thought, oh my God, we didn't know about that. I said, I think that's why your friends have asked me to come and see you, because I'm guessing that's not what... And they're like, no, we're treating our girls the same. And his demeanour, everything changed to, right, tell me what we need to do.
Get on with it,
yeah, and then, and it took 15, 20 minutes to sort out what could have been an absolutely huge problem.
Yeah.
And
because we presume, we think, we've got this story from somewhere that everything will be all right, and
it's all those misconceptions, isn't it? And there are so many misconceptions when it comes to wills.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's the knowledge. You don't wake up in the morning and think, oh, what's going to happen when I die? Or
it's not something you want to think about.
No,
really,
it's not. It's not. But unless you know someone that's been through it, you're not going to understand that. And again, I think cost, which is why we do these shows as well. It's about getting that knowledge out and showing you that it is affordable, and also that it's not as scary as you might think it might be.
And it could save so much in the long term.
It's such a selfless thing, Hayley, because you get something out of it when you speak to Charlotte or a member of her team. It's quite cathartic for you, and you will definitely get something out of it. But you're genuinely doing it for the people that you care about. You've worked hard for everything that you've got, so you've probably got a very clear path in your mind of who you would want to inherit from your hard work. But unless you actually document that, that's not necessarily going to happen. And the rules of intestacy, when that makes what you want to happen not happen, that makes a terrible time even worse. So I'm not going to pretend for 1 second that a will makes a bereavement easier, because it doesn't.
No.
But what it does is it doesn't make it worse.
Yes, yeah.
It doesn't add to that burden. So it really is a selfless act. But until you go through the process, you actually can't possibly know, because you can only know what you know.
Yeah.
You can't possibly know what things you might be heading off at the pass. And I know there'll be people watching this who are still probably thinking, well, I don't need a will. And all I would do, without trying to come across as facetious or clever, is just ask yourself the question, why do I think that? Who told me that I didn't need a will? Where did I get that from?
Yeah.
Because it's only when it's too late that your family find out that actually you did need a will. So I would just say, if you're thinking about making that all-important first step, that is generally the hardest thing. Speaking to Charlotte's easy.
Yeah.
And actually getting the document at the end of it for you is amazing. And I like what you said right at the top of the show, that it's not actually a traditional Christmas gift, but it'd be an amazing gift for your family at
Absolutely.
Christmas.
It really would.
I'm not
For the
saying you're going
whole
to wrap
family.
it up and say,
No.
but you've
But
done
you
something
say
incredibly
you've done
selfless,
it,
and
or
you
you've
are doing it for the
started,
people that you care about. But
Yeah.
you're doing it for yourself as well. You know, I'm setting myself up for a fall here, but I've worked hard my entire life, so what I've got, I've earned.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that goes to the people that I care about the most. So obviously I've got a will that's going to guarantee that that happens. If I don't make my own will, I'm actually leaving it to chance. And for me, selfishly, my last act on planet Earth would then be not mine. It
No,
would be
out of your hands, yeah.
it would be the government.
Yeah.
So do something amazing, not just for yourself, but for your family. Take control tonight. Send that text. Speak to a member of the client care team tonight. You won't regret doing
No,
it.
you
It
won't.
is your last gift, and I think
Yeah.
a lot of people might think they haven't got anything, but it's not just about your house and your money.
It's not just
There's
money, is
lots
it?
of
Yeah.
things you can put into a will, isn't there?
Yeah, it can do so much more than just distribute your estate. It can do guardianship. It's a really big one for a lot of clients. Is stipulating who you want to take care of your children if you weren't here.
So gosh, if both parents died, or perhaps you're a single parent, that you choose who then looks after them.
Yeah, whether it's family or friends, again, it's your choice. And it can even be gifts. So cash gifts or family heirlooms.
Jewellery, couldn't
Yeah,
it?
it
Certain
could be
pieces of jewellery.
Pets, who wants to look
Of
after your pets? They're just
course,
as
yeah.
important as children to a lot of people. So,
Absolutely.
You know, stipulating who you trust.
On the screen there as well, I hadn't even thought of that before, but record who doesn't inherit from your
Yes,
estate.
exactly. Yeah, so you know.
Because there can be family fallouts, can't there?
Absolutely, you might be estranged from a child or a parent, it could be a sibling, anybody. But again, it's not just who you want it to go to, who you don't want it to go to, and protecting those people that you want
That's
to
a biggie.
inherit.
Wasn't there a story? It was a lady who was in a relationship with someone, and they'd lived together and they'd been together for years, but she was actually still married.
Yes,
Oh, I think-
we've again, I think
They hadn't divorced, had they?
No.
Previous.
she never got divorced. I know the case you're talking about, and yeah, so she'd been separated, and she'd been separated for over a decade, but neither of them had gone through with the divorce. So she'd got a completely new life, and of course, again, understandably, in her mind, she's with her new partner, and this is her life. But thankfully, we got to speak to her because we explained that if she didn't make her own will, she's under the eyes of the law. Again, she's still married. So if she passed away, the first £322,000 of her estate is going
Goes
to
to
her
her
husband. And she even still had his name on the property, the way that they owned it jointly,
wow.
so that if she died, the whole house was going to go to him as well. So we were able to help change the way that the property was owned, and obviously we were able to do a will. But that could have gone catastrophically wrong, and she genuinely had no idea. But of course, you don't, as Charlotte said, you don't wake up on a Saturday morning and
No, of course.
type on the internet what happens when I die.
Yeah.
But the only way, you know, and we can sit here and give you thousands of these examples, but what's wonderful when we speak to you is you're the example. This is your document. It's
Yeah.
your will.
Yeah.
At the end of it, you're going to get your document, and that's why we do these shows, because we want you to have a will that's yours, that's bespoke and unique to you. If not, you're going to get that government will, and it can just go so wrong so easily. And again, I will stress that if you sat there thinking, "Oh, I'm certain I don't need one," I promise you do.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing, isn't it? It is everybody who needs one.
Well, you have got one, haven't you?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you haven't written down what you want to happen, but if you die, the government will say what happens.
And that's the biggest thing is I think this default position genuinely people haven't heard of the rules of intestacy.
No.
Why would they?
No, we hadn't.
I've got no idea about how our car works, you know, an internal combustion
yeah.
engine. I get in my car and I turn it on and I drive
let's
it,
go.
and I just need to know that it works. I don't understand how it works, you know, so we can't expect people to understand the full workings of, you know, the rules of intestacy or everything about estate planning, because if it's not what you do or not what you're interested in, why would you?
Yeah.
I affectionately refer to myself as a geek. I love what we do because we genuinely help people. Every single time we write a will, we've done something amazing for that client. But when I say we've done something amazing, it's our client that's done the amazing thing, because they took that all-important first step and they created their own will, got rid of the rules of intestacy, so removed any risk, and they took control of what happens when they pass away. And that's invaluable. It really is. So again, if you sat watching this show and you haven't sent that text yet, or you haven't spoke to a member of the client care team, please do. You won't regret doing it. It'll be one of the best things you've ever done, and it's not expensive.
Not at all. And the other thing is, I mean, if anybody's at home watching and thinking, why should we choose simpler law? It's because this is what you do, isn't it?
Yeah,
you are the expert.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a hand-holding service. I know we keep going over it,
No,
but it's so
great.
important because it's such a personal document, and you need to feel comfortable. You need to feel safe when you're going through it, and that's what we're there for. You've got the answers. We're there to get them.
And that's the nice thing. We don't need to know anything. We just need to have this conversation with you. Because like you say, you have got the question. Just in a conversation like this, you get all the answers, don't you? So even if you don't really know what you want, you get there through the conversation.
Ultimately, you tell us what you want and we give you that document. As you go through the process, you'll only get your document when you're 100% happy with the advice that we've given you, and you're 100% happy with the instructions you've given us. If at that point we never get there, you won't have your document, but everyone gets there. Because, you know, it's got to be right for you.
And there's so many things that we wouldn't have thought about, but again, you know that those things are important.
Yeah, I've got a fully trained staff, so they're there to give you that advice. Whether you take it is your choice. You can take it, you can not take it. It's, again, having your document that's got your wishes in it that you're happy with. We're just there to give you the advice to make sure that happens.
And make sure it's legally binding, because we talk about templates, don't we?
Yeah.
Do-it-yourself wills. The problem is you're not an expert in that field, so you could do it wrong.
No, it's a dangerous thing. It really frustrates me because I don't know any other profession particularly where you're kind of encouraged to pay to do it yourself. And then unless you're a qualified will writer and you're totally up to speed with current legislation and all the inheritance tax allowances that you can claim, you know, there's so much to think about that. When you're doing it for a living and you're doing it day in, day out, that's our job to do it. But if you just went and you have to pay for these templates as well, but that template's going to give you no advice, you then risk messing it up yourself because you haven't got the knowledge, and that's not criticism. I'm ignorant to everything outside of what I do for a living, truthfully. You know, you wouldn't ask me about anything else because I'd be like, I don't know. And yet, you know, there are people that will go and buy these templates, and it's almost more heartbreaking if that goes wrong because they knew they needed a will.
The intention's there.
They've tried to do it themselves, and then when it does fail, or if it does fail, it's clear what they were trying to achieve, but because they tried to do it themselves, it's failed.
But it could even be to do with the signatures and that it's signed properly, couldn't it? Because Hayley had the same situation when she did the LPA with her mum. You explain.
Our neighbour, who we've lived next door to, well, all our lives. My mum had lived next door to her since she was a little girl and she'd grown up, and then she lived next door. So we'd known her forever, and she was one of the people that signed for us. And we didn't realise, because we've always known her as the name that she said. But when she signed and then when she wrote her name, it was all sort of back to front. We didn't even notice, brought it to you. You noticed, and like, what is this? And we're like, so we spoke to her. And actually, she's always used her middle name. But legally, that would have been wrong because it's not her.
And you wouldn't notice.
But we wouldn't.
No.
We'd never have known that was incorrect.
Yeah, and this is why we take you through the whole process. From the beginning, we'll, as I say, take that first step. We'll send out a welcome pack to you, which goes through everything to expect on consultation.
Great.
You still don't need any answers. We'll take you through that consultation at your own pace. We'll send the documents to you. We'll even help you sign it, and we'll offer to validate it for free, to make sure it is signed correctly and that it's legally binding
So
in
you
place.
basically check everything.
Yeah, exactly. So all the way through until your document is legally in place and you're happy with it, we'll be there. So I don't know why you wouldn't take that professional advice and that service, because you're not going to be able to do that sometimes yourself. You could have made a mistake there, which can be detrimental to the whole family.
Template,
and all it
template
takes,
gives you no protection whatsoever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're still paying for that template. The prices we've got tonight are so affordable. These offers are incredible.
Well, this was the one thing, one of the things that stopped us doing it. We thought it'd be hundreds or thousands
of
of
pounds.
pounds.
It'd be really expensive.
Yeah.
You know, it's law. It's going to be really, really expensive. It's going to be really confusing, and it's completely the opposite. Even at £209, it's worth every single penny of that. That you know, the will that's been written is legal. It's definitely going to happen. What you want to happen is going to happen because you've written this professional will with simpler law. But actually, that cost today, if you secure this deal, you're actually getting that at £89. And £89, how, you know, if you split that to the 4 payments, which you can do, completely split the cost interest-free to £22.25, 4 payments of that. What do you spend on coffee? How easily do you spend
It's not even a lunch, that, is it?
Yeah, in a...
We managed to spend double that on a takeaway.
I was going to say takeaway.
Same here.
We do.
Mortifies me. £50. Takeaway for 2, though.
Our
Well,
takeaways
you've made
are
it
so
sound worse
expensive.
because there's 4 in my family.
Well,
It's just 2 of
it
you.
is worse.
Our takeaways are so expensive,
I think it's where we live. Very expensive takeaway.
and you can't, and you're like, you know, that is it. They're about £50, which you could do the lasting power of attorney for the takeaway price. Honestly, I think these prices are phenomenal, but they are time limited, so it's not forever. You can get these prices up until Friday.
Close of business on Friday, yeah. So that's why you
However,
need to do it right now.
Do it right now,
Yeah.
because you'll forget, and on Saturday you'll think, oh my goodness, I was going to do lasting power of attorney. It's gone back up to £349.
Well, that's why we're so lucky to be here again tonight, because we think will be the last show of the year. We did the offer before, and so many people missed out.
Yeah.
We've managed to get the deal again
They were
for you at
please,
home.
Can you just do it again before Christmas? I want to sort it before Christmas. And of course you can with those same prices right now. And you are saving £170 on the lasting power of attorney. And we'll go back through details of what a lasting power of attorney is. 4 payments of £44.75. But I think lots of you, and don't worry, if you've secured the will deal, and when we talk about lasting power of attorney, you think, oh, I wish I'd done them both together, because that was a massive saving, and now I do want lasting power of attorney. As long as you've got in touch and secured the deals, I know the team will allow you then to say, well, actually, I'm going to do wills and lasting power of attorney.
Yeah, £558 comes down to £249 or £62.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments, and that's the will and the lasting power of attorney. Remember, the first 250 clients will also receive that book, What My Family Should Know, and in that book, it basically records everything that you needed when you lose someone.
Another reason to get in touch right now. So you've got the price secured and you've got the book, because people will buy the book after the books have gone at £25. You're getting that completely free of charge, and so much vital information for your family in there. I truly think from 17 you should have this book, but you know, from the government, so everybody can find all the details that you need.
Yeah, only the first 250 people who secured those deals, though, will get that. So to get in touch, that's really simple and straightforward as well. You can either go to the website directly to simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV to ensure you get those special deal prices. You can call the call centre right up to 3 a.m. The team are there ready and waiting to take your call, and all they're going to do is secure your actual deal for you. 0333 600 2600 is the phone number. But on these evening shows that we do, the will texting service is the best.
I think that's so easy. I love all the competitions where you just text a word, and this will be a competition that you're definitely winning because you're securing those prices. You're texting just the word will to 66777. You're not having to speak to anybody tonight. You can go to bed and wake up tomorrow. Someone will get back in touch with you tomorrow after 11 a.m. and sort out a good time to actually, talk you through the will. But all you're doing right now, you need no answers to any questions. You're securing these prices for what we think is your last opportunity this year, and securing them before they go back up at the end of the day on Friday. So please do it now, because you'll forget, and Saturday you'll kick yourself because they've all gone back up in price. Do it right now. It's that first step, isn't it, to make such a massive difference to your loved ones You know, it's your final gift. It could be your Christmas present to all your loved ones that you've actually written that will, and what you want to happen does happen. Now, this way, we went through our website. So go to ShopOnTV.co.uk, click onto, it's halfway down the home page, onto Simpler Law, and it takes you through to their page.
Yeah, it shows you the offers. All you've got to do is just fill in that little form that you can see just there. Very straightforward. It's just another easy way to get in touch. ShopOnTV.co.uk, and as Hayley said, just click on the logo for Simpler Law. If you do get in touch, you secure those deals, you secure those prices that we've got for you, but only until the close of business on Friday evening. Remember, that's why it's definitely worth getting in touch right now. The offers are brilliant. You've got the interest-free payments available. It really is the time to get in touch.
And we just put these things off, don't we? And you do it time and time again. My mum's desperately needs to get a patio done. Not because it doesn't look pretty, it's because it's dangerous. The slabs are like this, and she goes out to feed the birds. They're really slippy because they're so grotty and horrible, and there's trip hazards everywhere. But we still haven't done it. 2 years down the line. And do you know why we haven't done it? Not because we can't afford it, because we've not rung someone to come round and tell us what they can do, give us the quote, and we can say, yes, please, could you do it next week? And that's we put these things off. All of a sudden, we'll be putting things off now because it's Christmas. We'll get through Christmas.
There's always a reason, isn't there?
And then it'll be spring. We'll
Yep.
sort the garden out for spring. Then it's summer. We better get the holiday booked.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, something happened yesterday, and it's all too late. And I don't know what happens, but I would like to think that my dad watches down on me. And can you imagine watching down on your family, that you know what you wanted to happen, you know who you wanted to have certain things, you know certain people you didn't want to have certain things, and because you didn't write a will, a legal will, sadly there is a will, and it's the government will. And you're then watching
It's just taken out of your hands.
completely the wrong things happening.
Yeah.
Families falling out, falling to pieces. It's devastating. Simpler Law, the biggest thing is, and I think the biggest thing, we think it's going to be really expensive, we think it's going to be really complicated. You've seen the prices, it's so affordable. But when we did lasting power of attorney for my mum,
we can tell you it's not complicated
Before
because Hayley's
Simpler
been
Law
through the service, haven't you?
was with us here at Shop on TV, separate to this completely, we did the lasting power of attorney for Mum. They're amazing. Me and Mum are the most worrying, petrified people you'll find, honestly, in the world. We are absolutely horrendous, aren't we?
Yeah.
I drive in potty. I worry about absolutely everything. I don't know how I'm in this job, because I worry constantly about everything. And we thought, oh, it's going to be so complicated. I won't know what to say. I'm no good with law at all, or long words even. I'll be really confused. They made it so easy. It was a sit-down conversation like we're having tonight. And we didn't need to know any answers.
No.
Because through conversation, we gave those answers.
And it is that, as Charlotte explained it, that hand-holding service.
Yeah, well, we dealt with two ladies, and they became friends, absolutely became friends. I never at one point thought, I'm asking a silly question, because I didn't feel,
Yeah.
and I always feel like that, didn't feel like that. I thought, I can ask that question. I can email and think, oh, I forgot that, because they make you feel so at ease.
And the other great thing is the reviews that we share with you, they nearly always mention a name, they mention someone in the team. Take
Everyone
a look
goes
at this.
through the same experience, don't they? Yeah.
This is from David. I spoke with Bjorn today about getting a will document drawn up. Very polite and friendly person. He was also very professional and efficient. He guided me through the process in a concise and clear manner. Very happy with the great customer service I received today. Thanks. Thanks, David, for that one. Next one, this one is from Jean. And this is you, I was rather nervous to begin with, but was from the very beginning, every person I spoke to put my worries at rest. It was a very simple procedure, and I'll be recommending them to anyone I know who hasn't got a will yet. Imagine the relief that you've got. And that's the thing, we talk about the customer care team that you've got there. It is that, like you said, massively trained, but really personal, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really, really important document, and we do take you to a dark place for a couple of minutes. But apart from that, hopefully you can have a little bit of fun with it as well, because we are just having a conversation, and we're producing a document that we won't produce a document, should I say, until you're happy with it. So we'll give you the advice. Whether you take it is up to you. But yeah, it's just having that conversation and making sure that we've done something really good for you.
And now it's not just wills that we're covering with Simpler Law. And remember, experts in the field. We're also going to talk about lasting power of attorney. And I think Wills is something we've all heard of,
Yeah.
but lasting power of attorney you might have heard the phrase but not know what it is, might you?
Yeah, again, I think it's a case of there's not a great deal of information out there, or sometimes there's a little bit of misinformation. So yeah, most people have got something at the back of their mind, I should have a will. A lasting power of attorney sort of complements estate planning, but it's actually whilst you're alive, it's got nothing to do with death. So lasting powers of attorney are designed that today, whilst you have capacity, so you've not fallen ill, you've not been in an accident, today whilst you have capacity, you can nominate people that you would pass your voice on to, so that if, God forbid, in the future you did lose capacity, you've donated your power to them. That's what lasting powers of attorney do. So it's usually your spouse or your partner or your children or those closest to you, but it's people that you trust to make decisions on your behalf. And I always stress this, they're not an insurance policy, but they can be thought of similar to one. You know, we'll insure things like our boiler and our pets and our phones, but we forget to look after ourselves sometimes. So these are documents that you want to have and then hope that your family never need to use them, because that means you've had your health. But if you are unlucky and life throws you that curveball, and unfortunately we all know that life can be cruel, if that curveball comes your way and you are in an accident, or we all know we're living longer, so dementia is very prevalent at the moment. Unfortunately, both my grandparents suffered with a form of dementia, so I think most people have some first or second-hand knowledge of it, and it's an awful disease. But that situation can be made worse if there isn't a lasting power of attorney in place that gives someone the ability to look after that person. So that's what they're about.
Because the misconception is you presume, if you are a husband or a wife or a daughter or a son, that you can step into their shoes and you can sort out perhaps the bills and the, you know, all those, the bank, but you can't, can you? No, they don't. The government doesn't care or even really know who you are, so you're not allowed to.
No, and the institutions don't. It's a totally understandable assumption, especially for a married couple, to assume, you know, you're married, you've created this bond, not heathens like you two who've only been together for 34 years next year. But in all seriousness, I totally understand when spouses or civil partners make the assumption that each other could access their accounts and make decisions for each other. It's totally understandable. But again, unfortunately, in the eyes of the law, you simply can't. And sometimes people will even say to us, well, it's okay because we've got a joint account. But actually, legally, a joint account means that you've both got to have capacity to access joint assets.
Yes.
So if one of you's lost capacity, actually, if the other person's accessing it, they shouldn't be.
That's actually not right,
It's not right. And things like property get tied up. And I always I want my clients and people that I speak to think about this, and it's not trying to be clever when I pose this question, but whilst you've both got capacity today, can either of you walk into any institution, especially banks or building societies, can you walk into each other's bank or building society and say, my wife's called Jeannie, if I walked into Jeannie's bank and said, I'm Jeannie's husband, can I access her accounts, please?
Definitely not.
No.
When you put it like that, you're like, gosh, no, of course I can't.
But
So
that's when you're well,
And that's when you're well. And the next day if I walked in and said, terrible news, my wife's just been incapacitated, so can I access the accounts now?
Definitely
not.
Nothing's changed. If anything, it's got even harder, but it was impossible in the first place. And unfortunately, people only realise how difficult that is when it's too late to do anything about it, because it's too late. So the only time you can do it is now.
Yeah, and Charlotte, there are two types, aren't there? So we're sort of covering financial there. So again, to recap with the financial, you basically, the person you nominate becomes you, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. They step into your shoes so they can, access bank accounts, as we've just mentioned.
All these things,
anything that you can see on the screen there. So claiming pensions, benefits, they can, property as well. So if you've got a property, they can manage that. If you need to sell it, they can do that. Anything from a financial point of view there, they can handle, because these things don't stop just because you've lost your capacity.
And lots of things there you wouldn't even think about, you know, like you say, if you needed to sell the property perhaps to go into a home and things, you wouldn't be able to control that at all.
Exactly, not without power of attorney. So this is why it's so important. Again, just allowing someone to be able to manage everything for you, because these things don't stop.
And so important to get someone that you trust and you choose that person.
Yeah, it can be one singular person, it can be a multiple people, whether you've got a couple of children, it can be those, spouse and children, friends. Again, it's you making that choice and who you trust.
We'll talk to you about how you want those people to act, because they can act in different ways, you can give different instructions, so it's quite a flexible document, but again, it's your document.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you're choosing people that you trust to make the decisions for you. If you don't do that and you lose capacity, you don't know who's going to try and step forward and go through that process of, well, it's an awful process of actually going through something called a court of protection. But again, this is about control for me. It's setting up a lasting power of attorney today and then hoping your family never need to use it. You've still got that peace of mind that if life threw you that curveball, you've chosen the people that are going to step in and look after you. It's people that you trust and people that you love.
And if you haven't done a lasting power of attorney, there is, a bit like the will, there's a government will, there is a way things go legally.
There is only one way, yeah. Someone then has to apply for what's called a deputyship order through what's called a court of protection. So it's another legal process. It's incredibly expensive, arguably ridiculously expensive. And that's if you just do it yourself. Most people have to use a professional. So they turn to a solicitor or a company like ours to do it for them. So that adds more cost to it. But I think even worse than the cost is actually the length of time that it takes for the application to go through. Because at the moment it's taking a year, sometimes longer than a year. And in that period when you should really be caring for...
It can be too late then, can't it?
Yeah, sadly, people will pass away within that period.
Before they've even sorted it? Oh, that's awful.
Whereas the lasting power of attorney, the important thing is to get it signed, dated and witnessed correctly, and we help you with all of that. It has to be registered with a body called the Office of the Public Guardian.
Yes.
Right, okay.
They may charge a registration fee. It can be free. It's £41 or £82 at the most that they will charge for registering the document. But when you align that to the thousands of pounds that it would cost to go through the court of protection, and of course, once the lasting power of attorney is registered, the people that you've chosen can then act on your behalf. Because sadly, we know for a fact that we've heard from families where someone's lost capacity and the black sheep of the family or the son that they weren't leaving money to, etc., he's the one that's actually tried to get power over the finances.
Oh, gosh.
There's nothing stranger than folk when money's involved.
Absolutely.
So again, this for me, it's all about control. If you make a will, you control what happens when you're not here. If you make a lasting power of attorney, you've determined who can step into your shoes. No one else. For me, it's all about control. That's why we do these shows, to encourage you to take control.
Yeah, definitely. We've covered the financial lasting power of attorney.
Which is what we came to do.
Yes.
And then you told us about there's a
health
second.
and well-being,
And when you spoke about the health and well-being, I was like, God, this is just as important as the finance, or possibly in my heart, more important.
Yeah, this is the emotional side. You know, we've covered financial, which, like we say, doesn't stop, but the health document is just as important because, again, you're nominating that person to step into your shoes to decide where you're living. So if that be at home with them, it could be a child that wants to care for you at home, they can make that decision for you. If you need to go into care, they can decide where that care home is, which care home that is. If they like it, if they don't like it, they can change you. And even down to, we say it's trivial, but what you're wearing and what you're eating, which are really important things to you,
when
personal
it's out
things.
of your hands.
Yeah, as we've said already, you could be a vegetarian, it could be an item of clothing, it could be that you like to wear a red lipstick every day. You know, it sounds really trivial, but if that's important to you, your loved ones are going to know that and they're going to probably want to do those things for you. So again, it's giving them the power, but also you knowing that they're going to take care of you and making sure it's the right people, as Ian said already.
Even down to things like controlling who you have contact with. Because, you know, lots of people have said, I never want to see this person again, I never want to see that person. And you know, some unscrupulous people will take an opportunity when someone's lost capacity to then go and see that person. You know, so again, it's just about, it's about control.
Yeah, it's a choice, isn't it?
And it's choice, and the only time you can make these choices is now. You know, it's cliched, it's cheesy, but you can't do anything yesterday because it's gone, and you can't do anything tomorrow because it never comes. You can only act now. So this is why we do these shows, and yes, we have come back, because we said we wouldn't.
Only before Christmas, not forever.
Not because
I've upset you.
No, not at all, not at all. But we were really overwhelmed in a nice way by the reaction of the last show, and then you're quite right. A lot of people missed the deadline, and we said we weren't going to do it, and then it's like, well, no, there's people out there. We can't come on the TV show like this and say we're there to help people, and then go, sorry, tough. So we have done this again. But you know, we do have to draw a line somewhere. We're fortunate that as one of the largest providers of private client legal services in the UK, we can do it at this price. We can do these exclusive deals. But you're right, after Friday, they will go. So this is a great opportunity. I loved what you said at the start of the show. It's not your first idea of a Christmas gift, but actually it's a brilliant gift for your family.
The best
I'm not
Christmas gift.
suggesting for 1 second you wrap it up
No.
and make it a Christmas card.
No.
But actually, it's such a selfless act that you'll have done something amazing for yourself, but you'll have done something
For the whole family.
absolutely
You might have
fantastic
promised
for
your
family.
daughter your engagement ring, and then if you pass and you haven't written that will, it may be somebody else that fights for the engagement ring. They're falling out because no, I want. But Mum said I could have it. It doesn't matter what's been said. It doesn't matter that you told your oldest son exactly what you want to happen.
It's got to be written down, hasn't it? It's got to be written down.
And though you're thinking, well, I haven't written a will, I must do one, and we keep putting things off. Sadly, if something did happen yesterday, you have got a will. So if you haven't written what you want to happen legally down with someone like Simpler Law, sadly, there's a government will. And that government will, it doesn't relate to anybody. This will not be, hand on heart, this will not be what you want to happen. It honestly will not be what you want to happen. And all of a sudden, a long-distant relative could be getting everything. All of a sudden, it doesn't matter that you've been in a partnership like myself and Sean for, we've worked it out, 34 years in March, I think. And, we've been together virtually every single day since the day we met, working together, living together. So everybody knows if one of us passed, everything, we are as one, mine is yours, Sean's is mine.
But that wouldn't
actually,
happen, would it?
if you do that chart, which is the government will, that wouldn't happen.
And that was a surprise to us, wasn't it?
A complete.
Absolute
I think
surprise.
you presume, don't you?
Misconceptions we talk about a lot when it comes to wills, and that's why it's so important that you get started and you take that first step. And that's the opportunity you've got with us today, to get the will started. And Charlotte and Ian always say that's the hardest bit, just getting that appointment in place, and that's all you do, securing the deal.
Life gets in the way, then it'll be Christmas, it'll be spring, it'll be getting the summer holidays sorted, and then all of a sudden, if something does happen, you'll think, why didn't we before Christmas do that will? And why didn't you when you see the prices that you've got today? As we were saying, these prices are only up until close of business on Friday. So we're on Wednesday already. You'll forget, won't you? And you'll get in touch on Saturday or Sunday, and all of a sudden that £89, which is nothing when you split it over 4 payments of £22.25, it's gone up to £209. £209 is still a great price, but you'll kick yourself that you didn't save £120. So all you're doing is securing these prices today by getting in touch and saying, I would like to do a will, please. That price will be secured. But we spoke about lasting power of attorney. If you think, well, actually, definitely lasting power of attorney is what we want. That should be £349 down to
£179. So if you want to spread the cost on that one, £44.75 on your first of 4 interest-free payments.
And those costs, £22.25 for the will. What do you spend on coffee a week or a month? And £44.75. What do you spend when you get a takeaway?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so affordable.
And that's why it's really important. It's something that makes such a huge difference. Now, your lasting power of attorney, remember, there are 2 different types. There's health and wellbeing as well as the financial. If you are in Scotland, it's a joint document, but Simpler Law can help you with that as well. If you want to, however, go for the best deal on the show is if you go for the will and the lasting power of attorney.
But you're saving more than you're spending. You're saving £309. £249 is your price, only up until Friday, close of business, but do it right now. Just secure that price so you don't forget. Split that cost to 4 payments of £62.25. But if you have already perhaps been in touch and you've already said, well, actually, I want to I'll do the will, and now you're thinking, now you've learnt about lasting power of attorney, you're thinking, I wish I'd done them both together. Honestly, when you talk to the team, they will be quite happy. You've secured the price. They'll say, OK, you can do the will and lasting power of attorney at the price that you saw on the show. But you do need to secure these prices. The first 250 people, and this is another reason to do it right now, will get this incredible free book called What My Family Should Know. It's worth £25. Lots of people, when this has gone, get in touch and they're like, please, can we buy this book? Because this gives you vital information. If someone does pass, and if it has happened to you in the past, you're hunting for bits of paper and you're hunting for the secret place. Where's the secret place that... My mum's got so many secret places. You'd know. It's all in this one book. But actually, it's all the things you really do need to know, and things again that you wouldn't think about.
And the story behind this, Ian, is, I mean, it's a bit of an essential for every home, isn't it, really?
Yeah, one of the services we provide is estate administration. So we're there to offer professional services as executors and help people get through probate. And it was really born out of that department, because part of that process when someone passes away is you do obviously have to gather in all their assets. So obviously as a professional we've got certain tools that we can use so we can access that. When you use a lay executor, they might not have the same access to the tools that we have, and things get missed. What this does is help clients take stock of everything they've got. And the big things that came out of it were missing bank accounts, missing pension pots, and missing life insurance policies. So when we did further research, it was discovered that there's circa £5 billion of pension pots out there that have not been claimed.
5 billion.
You think about all the millions of people in the UK that have worked all over in different places that might amass these little pension pots. And unless your family knew that you worked at that company for that period of time, would they know to actually try and claim that pension? So there's £5 billion believed to be in the UK in unclaimed pensions, 2 billion of unclaimed life insurance policies, so a policy's not being found. And it's believed there's £850 million sat in UK bank accounts where, again, you know, they might be little accounts, but millions of little accounts adds up £850 million.
And that should be with the loved ones. That should be somewhere, shouldn't it?
So,
not just
yeah.
sat
So
there.
when we were talking with the team, and you know, and these stories kept coming up, and we found this, and you know, because sometimes we're making good news phone calls. You know, like we found this life policy. Your father had £42,000, like we never knew, and we're like,
Wow.
we had the tools to find that, and we're like, how many people out there didn't? And it's like, well, who does sit down and take stock? Now I'm a geek. My wife laughs at me because I have a death box, which sounds pretty dark.
Oh, that does sound dark.
Sounds very dark. But do you know all that's in it? Copies of everything that we need. And if the worst happened to either of us, everyone knows that's where the information is. And of course, our important documents are stored with our company, as you would expect. But people aren't like me. They're not geeks. You don't sit down and take stock. But it's beyond just the monetary side. It's being able to document personal things like pins for access to your phone or your tablets, because a lot of our lives now are digital, and unless you've got access to that digital platform, they can be lost forever, and that can be devastating as well. So it make a brew, sit down, and it just helps you take stock. And again, that's a really selfless thing to do.
Like you said, cathartic, isn't it?
It is,
It's filling that out.
And it makes me laugh, because there are people who will turn to us and say, oh yeah, I don't think I've got very much, that's why I've put off making a will, and they'll sign the will and they'll send the document back, and they might ask us to keep it, so we store it and we check that everything's done, and you go through and you look, well, the instruction says they've got a house that's worth 200,000 and they've got 10,000 in ISA, and they've got a car, and what they think isn't a lot suddenly adds up, and you're going, hang on, there's £350,000 there, so it's interesting what we think isn't a lot. But it's all relative anyway. What's yours is yours, and whether it's £10 or whether it's $1 million is irrelevant. It's yours, so you should want to take control of where that goes. And that's why we really encourage you to think about making a will.
Remember, the first 250 people will get that book, whether you're securing the appointment for a will or a lasting power of attorney.
And remember, it's not just about your house and your car. It could be your pets. It could be your children actually saying that you'd want to be guardians. There's so many things.
Could be an heirloom.
Could be the fact that you want to be cremated or buried. You know, your family could be falling out because some of them thought you wanted to be cremated. Some of them thought you wanted to be buried. It's having it all written down legally, you know, in a will, because if you don't write it down legally, sadly you have got a will. It's the government will, and you truly do not want
Everything is just taken out of your hands.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work, I don't think, for anybody at all. Remember, to get in touch, it's so easy. You can either get in touch through Simpler Law's website, you can get in touch via the phone call as well, and you can get in touch via text. So you can see there, you can go through our website, that's ShopOnTV.co.uk, go down to Simpler Law.
And the great thing there as well is all the details are there. So if you do want a phone, or if you do want to send a text, so the team get back in touch with you, or you can just fill in that form on our website.
The text is the most popular, and all you do is you text WILL, W-I-L-L, to 66777. And that you're not having to talk to anybody. You don't need to know the answers to any questions. By doing that, you've secured all those prices that we saw, and that you've definitely got that deal, because that deal does finish on Friday at close of business. But you'll forget. Do it right now.
Now's the time.
Secure that deal, and you know that's what you've done. Texting, you haven't got to speak to anybody at all. You can go to bed with that peace of mind. You've taken that first step.
Yeah.
Best Christmas present for your family. It could be the...
And for you, for that peace of mind for you.
It's the best last
that
gift.
weight lifted off your shoulders. We are going to go back to the offer that we've got on Wills. That's the details that you can see on the screen. The fact that it's only £89, it's £22.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments.
So affordable.
When it comes to Wills, who should I ask? Everybody needs one, don't they, Charlotte?
Yeah,
Literally.
everybody needs a will, yeah. And as we've said, it's not just about the distribution of where you want things to go. It could even be as simple as just appointing the guardianship in there. It could be a family heirloom that you want to put in. So it's relevant to anybody. It's just making that choice.
And it doesn't matter what age you are, because some people go, I'm too young to have a will. But you've still got things, haven't you?
Absolutely, yeah. It's just making that provision. Like we say, we hope nothing is ever going to happen.
Yeah.
But if it does, it's making sure it goes where you want it to go. So we're just asking you to take that first step, come and speak to us, and we'll be able to help you and get
There's
something
plans
in
where you
place.
can update it as well. You know,
Right.
you make a will today based on what you know today.
Yeah.
But obviously, you know, as life changes, I mean, it's quite funny, because when we do speak to people and we say, "Oh, have you made a will?" They're like, "Oh, yeah." You're like, "Okay, how long ago?" "Oh, 10 years ago." And do you know where it is? And like, "I'm not sure." And that's a worry, because if you don't know where it is, if it can't be found, it doesn't exist. And then we'll say, "So has anything changed the last 10 years?" "No, not much." And then they go, "Well, I've got divorced and remarried and I've had a child." And you're like,
That's quite a lot.
Just a bit.
yeah. And so, you know, we'll help, you know, keep you up to date as well. But the important thing is to do it now,
Yeah.
you know, because it's right for you today.
Yeah.
And then if things do change, well, there are plans where you can update it going forward as well. I like what you said a couple of minutes ago when you were saying you can choose who administers it, you can choose the age that your children. The word is you.
Yeah.
You choose what happens. It's your decision. If you don't write your own will, nothing is you. It's just a generic set of rules. Yeah, well, you can see on the screen there, that's all the choices you get to make, and not all of those will be relevant to all clients. But everyone should consider who they want to administer the will. So the role of an executor is the person who's going to carry out your final wishes. Well, with the rules of intestacy, you don't even know who that's going to be, because it doesn't appoint someone.
That's horrible.
Someone else has to step in.
Gosh.
If you've got children or you've got grandchildren, if you're worried about them inheriting too young, you can set an age. And the vast, vast majority of our parents actually want their children to inherit at maybe 21, 23, in some cases even 25,
absolutely.
because they think they'll be more responsible.
Makes sense,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
And
'Cause
if
you know at
if you
17, you just probably throw it all away, whereas
if
you're
you
more sensible.
didn't write that down, is it 18 standard?
It's 18.
Yes,
Right.
yeah. We've all been 18.
Yeah.
Yes.
That wouldn't have been good to know.
Not every 18-year-old's like I was
No.
at 18. I mean, I saw a picture of me when I was 18 with my mullet.
You said
and
you were
my
going to bring that in for us.
I was just laughing my head off, going, "Where were my friends telling me why have you got, with that nose and those chins? Why did you have that hair? You're already on a loser." But no one corrected me. But I was giggling, because I'm thinking, when I was 18, I'm thinking, I'm a man. I know everything.
I
As
know
most
everything about
18-year-olds do.
everything, yeah.
But I wouldn't have made a responsible decision. You know, I'm
No.
realistic. I didn't really get serious about my life till I was in my early to mid-20s. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm a young person.
You're living, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're growing, aren't you?
And, you know, and sadly, you know, we also know that there are situations where children have inherited when they are quite immature or irresponsible, or they're going through something that they've not grown out of yet. So, you know, there are people that are dealing with addictions and dependency issues, and that's because they're only 18 years old. You know, so parents will say, well, let's make it 21, 23, 25. But without doing your own will, you can't stipulate that.
So it would just be 18, and that's it.
Whether it's right for your children or not, if they're due to inherit 18 under the rules of intestacy, sadly, that's when it goes to them, and that's when a bad situation can be made even more worse. So the whole point of making a will is it's yours.
Yeah.
All the decisions, all those things that were on the screen a minute ago, the age your children inherit, whether you want to leave specific gifts. But a big thing that we miss as well, which is surprising, is those fridge magnets that say friends of the family that you choose for yourself exist because blood isn't always thicker than water.
Good
and there
point,
are breakdowns in family, and it's not unusual for parents, as heartbroken as they might be over it, they'll say, we haven't spoken to or seen our son for 20 years and therefore we don't want him to inherit. And sometimes there's been quite a lot of emotion behind that. But sadly, there's a lot of people out there who've told their other child that's what they want to happen, believing that's enough. And then when they pass away, they pass away with a government will, and the government will basically says it goes to all children in equal shares. So what the client wanted to happen and what happens in reality is quite the opposite. Yeah. So it's really important to take control of your last act on planet Earth. And I keep saying it, Hayley, but I love that you've said it could be a great Christmas gift, because it's not a traditional gift, is it?
No.
But it is genuinely a gift for your family, because it's quite a selfless thing that you're doing. So making a will, not only do you take control, it's quite a cathartic process for you, but you've done something amazing for your family. So if you're still on the fence and thinking, shall I, shan't I? There's no risk. All you're doing is securing the offer.
Yeah.
If when you speak to Charlotte or a member of a team, you go, do you know what, this is not for me, we'll just give you your money back. But I promise you, it will be for you, and you won't regret going through the process.
And for our viewers at home, Charlotte, watching, why should they choose simpler law?
Charlotte.
Just Charlotte.
That's the
There we
answer.
go.
There's nothing
Done.
else to say.
Done. Okay, next.
We all agree.
This is all that we do.
Yeah.
And as much as we say, you know, me, it's the team. It is the team, because as you've seen on the reviews we've gone through on the show, they're named reviews, which we're really proud of. And these are the people that are writing your document and making sure that it's right for you. And it's really important. It's a personal document. We're explaining why it's so important. So it needs to be right. Coming through to our team, we're fully trained. You don't have to know anything. We will ask you all of the questions. You've got the answers. We just need to figure it out with you.
And we're not going to talk to you about anything else. It's just estate planning. That's all we specialise in.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're not going to diversify anywhere else. It's just about you, your estate and your family.
Got an award, haven't we?
And
You
yes,
are. Throw that in there again.
Recently award-winning.
We don't like to talk about it.
I whispered
You must
it in
be
there.
so proud to have this.
No, we are. I mean, that's a recognition from the industry. So the British Wills and Probate Awards, we were announced as the Estate Planner of the Year,
That's
one of the larger
fabulous.
firms. No, it was a genuine sense of pride. But of course, it's the company. I know it's cliched, but it's every member of staff that helped us get that award, because, you know, and it is the clients that have taken the time to leave the 5-star reviews, because we're always very quick to complain about something. We're not so quick to praise.
Yeah.
So we really appreciate when someone takes 5 minutes out of the day to say, do you know what, Charlotte was good, Jack was good, Shane was good, you know, that we appreciate that. And all of that led to the award. So yeah, for me personally, a massive sense of pride. But that hopefully would encourage a client to use us as well.
Of course.
Yeah, because you're using a company that this is all we do. You know,
it's the protection as well, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't come to us for anything else. And we carry £5 million of professional indemnity insurance, which, if you're not sure what that means, if we do make a mistake, you and your family are insured for up to £5 million. And touch wood, we've never made a mistake. We've never had a claim on that insurance policy. Should be careful putting it out there in the universe. But it's because of people like Charlotte, and because we have a compliance team, because we double check everything, and we double check everything with you. And at the end of the day, we're not drafting a document for us, we're drafting a document for you. That's what we want you to get out of it, is your will. And that absolutely means then that you don't have to have the government will. And that's the key to this.
Well, that is the point. You have got a will if you haven't written your own. It is the government one, and it's just not right for anybody at all. It will not be what you want to happen.
It doesn't care.
No, it doesn't care.
We're just an accountant. It's a default position, so it's a generic set of rules. There has to be a default position, otherwise there'd be anarchy. But the default position, because it's a default position, is just, right, here's a set of questions, this is what's going to happen, whether it's right or not. It doesn't care about you, your family, or your wishes.
Well, the four of us alone have all got different circumstances, and that's just the
course.
four of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we presumed, you know, we're like the little couple there at the bottom, but we're not actually married. We've been together 34 years in March, and we presumed that obviously it would go to each other. We've been together constantly for 34 years. Everybody knows that what was mine's Sean's, what's Sean's mine. But if you follow that chart, that is not the case at all. If Sean went first, I wouldn't have been entitled to anything of Sean's, and if I went first, Sean wouldn't have been entitled to anything of mine, even though we've been together 34 years. You have to follow the yes/no questions, and then
It'd go to children. If not, it'd go to parents.
It could go to a long-lost
wider
relative
family,
that you've never met or seen.
You'll be amazed how many millions, billions end up going to the Crown.
Doesn't go
Is that
anywhere.
the final step?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Worst case
gosh.
scenario.
If there's no family, and again, there's
Oh,
usually
my word, what
there's
a
usually someone
waste.
in your life that
That you would rather have.
I've got a
Or
person.
even if it was a charity, there's somewhere you'd
Yeah,
rather your
yeah.
money go to.
Only recently, a good friend of mine was talking to me, and he'd been good friends with this gentleman and helped care for him, and this gentleman had always said to him, listen, when I pass away, I want you to have my house because I've got no family.
Bless.
And he never thought about it particularly, but when he died, he kind of thought, oh, I wonder if I'm getting the house. He really wasn't doing it for that reason. But the gentleman died without a will, so he never bequeathed it to my friend. And my friend actually phoned me and said, what will happen now? What we'll do? Because everyone knew that he wanted me to have the house. And I said, I'm sorry, but it's going to follow the rules of intestacy. And actually, it's ended up going to a cousin who lives in Canada who had no relationship with him.
Oh my God.
That's how it's all unfolded. So that's the importance of making a will.
And he'd be gutted, wouldn't he? Because he knew
It wasn't
what he
his wish,
wanted.
yeah.
No.
It's going to someone that, albeit is a relative and entitled to it, it's not the person he wanted to inherit.
No.
And unfortunately, this happens all the time.
Yeah.
So that's why we do these shows, because people will understandably think, well, I assume this is going to happen, or I assume that's going to happen. But what I've realised over these many years is what they're assuming is actually more of a hope. I hope when I pass away that this happens. Like you probably both hoped or believed that you would inherit from each other.
Because we had that misconception of the common law, common law husband and wife. We've lived together all these years.
Thankfully,
Yeah.
you
We
made a
clocked
will,
it, yeah,
so you
yeah.
got rid of the government will, but the government will would have made no provision for either of you.
And it wouldn't, even if, for a lot of people that perhaps at home you're married and you think, well, that's all right, we're married. But marriage is very different to when the government will was written and when everybody sort of got married, had 2 children and stayed together forever.
There's also a limit on married couples, isn't there, on the amounts?
And again, yeah, that's something that's not spoken about enough, because even married, like, well, at least on first death, you know, when one of us passes away, you'll get everything. But depending on the size of the estate, you're actually only guaranteed the first £322,000.
And if you've got a house, that could be a section of the house.
It depends on whether there's children or not, and if you've got a blended family, we've got children from different relationships. It's not a too convoluted calculation, but effectively anything over that figure is then halved, and half is due to the children and half is due to the spouse. But sometimes the money that has to go to the children might mean that the property has to be sold to pay.
Oh my goodness.
When all you have to do is make your own will
Write it
and say,
down,
I want everything to go to my wife, I want everything to go to my husband, and then we'd like it to go to the children.
And tell us again about the married couple. They've been married for years and years, but it's a second marriage. They've got children from separate relationships. They all live together. They're brothers and sisters. Though they're stepbrothers, they're brothers and sisters. They're a family. That is so, you know, common now. That's
Very common.
Every day now.
Yeah.
But that's very complicated if you haven't got a will, isn't it?
It's devastating because it quite often only comes to light what's gone wrong after both parents have passed away. Because let's say the estate is less than 322,000, and if Mr. passed away yesterday, everything passes to his wife, which may be what he wanted and usually is. And then, of course, Mrs. understandably thinks that, well, he wanted both his daughter and my daughter to inherit in equal shares, and I want the same thing. And because we're a family, I'm not thinking about it. I treat as a family. Everyone who knows us treats us as a family. We don't think about stepdaughter or stepsister. Again, so I understand where the assumption comes from. But when Mrs. passes away, the rules of intestacy is all about your bloodline. So it will say down to her children, not stepchild. So the first parent that passes away, it's their children that are disinherited. So they call it sideways disinheritance because it's moved from one bloodline to another and goes down that bloodline. And people go, oh, that's not true and that's not fair, and that won't happen. But the reason we do these shows isn't to scare people, it's to get that information out there and say, that is what happens, and sadly it happens all the time. But it's so easily prevented by texting the word will to 66777 or speak to one of Charlotte's colleagues now. You honestly will not regret doing that, because then you take control and you mitigate all of that risk.
I think hearing all those stories, I think it just relates to everybody, because we're all in different situations. Where our lives are all completely different. But that government will, which is written for you if you haven't written your own, isn't right for anybody, and that is what will happen if you haven't got a will
it's not
yourself.
your wishes, is it? That's why it's not right for anybody.
I don't think it would be right for anybody.
Just provides a legal outcome.
You've often said, with all the wills that you've written, you've never written the government will. No one has ever asked you to do what the government will is
Never,
written.
because the government will is, there's not one personal thing in the government will, because how can there be?
No,
It
because
can't
they
be
don't.
personal.
And they have, you know, and they have tried to reform it, and all that's actually changed when they realised the complexity of it All that's actually changed is some figures have increased a little bit. But the only way to get what you want is for you to make a will, and that's why the rules of intestacy can't do that, because it can't be right for millions of people.
No.
So it doesn't choose your executors, they have to step forward. It will only pay to your children when they're 18, even if you want them to be older or you want them to get payments staged as they get older. It makes no provision for guardianship, so if you have got young children, you can't pass on your guardianship through the rules of intestacy. Forget about personal gifts or any cash gifts or anything like that, because it's all just lumped together. And if you want to exclude someone, it won't exclude them. If they're entitled under the rules of intestacy, they will inherit. Again, it doesn't care about your wishes. It doesn't know about your wishes. Hence, it's a default position. And I think one of the things we always labour on this show, and quite rightly, is if you haven't made your will, you're accepting the government will. And I think that's the second part that people don't fully understand. They might think, oh, I don't need a will, but not realise that actually that position means you're going to get the government will.
You're having that one,
which
like
actually,
it or not.
Yeah, which actually screams, you should have your own will.
I like it when you say, you know, when people say they haven't got a will, and you sort of say, well, actually you have, because the government will is what will fall into place if you haven't got your own.
Yeah, I've in the past we've done seminars with, you know, anywhere between 50 to 100 people, and I usually get a show of hands, and maybe 20-25% usually of the older generation will put their hand up, and then I'll quite horribly pick on someone and say, so you haven't got a will? And they'll go, no, I haven't. And of course the answer is, well, actually you have. You might not have made one yourself, and to everyone who didn't put their hands up, you've all got the same will. And then there's a moment of, really? And yes, really. If we pass away without making our own will, we die intestate. That means that those questions under the rules of intestacy are going to be asked of us. Are you married or in a civil partnership? Not are you in love, not are you cohabiting, not have you been together. I've heard all kinds of weird and wonderful things over the years, like, oh yeah, but we've lived together for 2 years, so I don't qualify for something now. And you're like, well, I don't know where that came from. So we hear a lot of a blend of lots of different bits of law that isn't relevant. And it really is that simple. You're either married in a civil partnership or you're not. In the same way that you've either made your own will or you haven't. And when I say made your own will, it's got to be valid. And even in this digital age, that still means it's got to be dated, signed and witnessed correctly with a wet signature. And we help with all of that. We make sure that it's a bespoke document for you, and we make sure that it's signed, dated and witnessed.
And for £89 on that offer price, that exclusive offer price that we've got here at ShopOnTV with Simpler Law, who'll go through the whole process, that expert advice that we've talked about. So the suggested retail price on the will itself is £209.
Which I thought they'd be really expensive to do a will, but actually £209 is a great price. The fact is, you're saving 120, so like you say, £89, 4 payments of £22.25. What do you spend on coffee? You wouldn't even notice that, and you've written your will professionally. You know what you want to happen is going to happen because it's all been done, signed and sealed, all done correctly for £89. Now, all you're doing today is securing these prices, but you must do it. Do it before you go to bed. Do not miss out on the will price, or perhaps you were listening to the lasting power of attorney and you're thinking, wow, it's £170 saving. Now, right now, it's £179 rather than £349. That's up until close of business on Friday. So if you get in contact on Saturday, sadly, it's back up to £349. So grab and secure this deal right now. Still a great price at £349, but think what you could do with that extra 170. There's a few outfits I could buy there. And you've got 4 payments of £44.75. So again, you're splitting that cost, which is fantastic. And then when you look at £44.75, how much do you pay when you go out for a night? You know, it's so expensive. We went out the other night, I can't believe the price of food and things. But then actually, you might decide, even if you've secured just the will price tonight, I want to do my will, but you're thinking now, oh, I wish I'd done the will and the LPA.
The great thing is the team will be, as long as you've secured that offer, secured one of the deals, they'll honour these offers that we've got for you. Remember, these are exclusive prices with us here at Shop on TV. As Hayley said, only valid until close of business on Friday. That combination at £249 comes down to £62.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. So simple and easy to get in touch. Lots of different ways to get in touch, even if you don't want to speak to anyone right now. You can either go to the website, Simpler Law directly, simplerlaw.co.uk /shop on TV. If you want to go for that directly on the website, or you can go and call the call centre. They're open right through till 3 a.m. 0333 600 2600. As I say, team are there right through till 3.
Yeah, till 3 o'clock, and they're amazing. If you've got a couple of questions, I'm sure they'll answer them. They will be busy, but you don't need to know anything tonight. Just say, I want to secure the deal. They'll get back to you later on. So later on, after 11 a.m. this morning, to sort out a good time to, to speak to you properly. The best thing, I think, if you're like us, sometimes you just don't want to talk to anybody, do you? We're right miseries. We might sound fun on television, but, well, I know you speak to them. No, I don't want to talk to them. And when you've spoken all day, sometimes you don't want to, I just want to sit and watch TV. I love the texting. Text Will, WILL, to 66777, and you've secured those prices. That's all you've just text Will. You've done it. That's that first step to make sure what you want to happen to what you've worked so hard all your life for is going to happen. And
that's what's so important, just taking that first step and doing it now.
Yeah, but once you've done that, everything falls into place.
You've started the process.
Or you can do it on our website as well. That's what we're looking at now, shopontv.co.uk. Keep going down till you go under the air fryer, and then click on to Simpler Law. You'll see all the details there. So if you've forgotten the phone number, it's there. It tells you about the text. But if you actually, again, don't want to speak to anyone, fill in the details. Press submit, and they're really easy questions. I love this test. I would have been great at school if this test was so easy. Press that button, and again, you've just secured those deals. That's all you're doing tonight, and it is that first step to, I think, the biggest peace of mind. Can you imagine if something happened yesterday, and you're now looking down, and I truly believe that, when you lose someone, they do, and they're looking down, watching a family fall out, because everybody knew what you wanted to happen. You didn't get a will written, and now it's the government will, and now what you wanted to happen isn't happening.
Everything taken out of your hands.
So many family breakdowns because of situations like that. And if you had written that will yesterday, it would have been all right.
Yeah, the clarity would be there, and your wishes would then be taken, wouldn't they?
It's legal. You can't, and even as I keep saying, Sean and myself been together 34 years in March. Obviously, if something happened to me, it's Sean's. If something happened to Sean, it's mine. But we're not married, and that is not the case. But it's not even as simple as being married, it all working out soundly. You have to have it all written down, because if you haven't got a will, the government will doesn't relate to anybody.
No, and it's the same with lasting powers of attorney. Imagine having, if you lose capacity, having everything taken out of your hands. Well, lasting power of attorney, let's talk about that actually, because, first of all, there's 2 different types of lasting power of attorney, and a lot of people might have heard the term but not know what it means, might they?
Yeah, I think a will is inevitable, so everyone will know that you're going to need a will. Yeah. At some point. Power of attorney, these are documents that you hope you never need to use, but they're there
just in case.
You should have, yeah, absolutely. So if you lose your capacity, whether it's through ill health, it could be a freak accident, these documents allow you to nominate who you trust to make your decisions for you.
Okay.
And the point of these documents is that you do it now whilst you've got capacity, because once you've lost that capacity, that's when it's too late to do these. So there's 2 separate documents. One is called Property and Financial Affairs. So this one is, again, someone stepping into your shoes, who you trust, family, friends, whoever it could be. They can access your bank accounts, so they can keep paying bills, they can claim pensions, if you're receiving benefits, so they can keep all of that going. If you've got property, they can sell the property, they can manage the property for you. Again, these things don't stop just because you've lost capacity.
No, it all carries on, doesn't it?
Exactly, so it gives that person the ease to be able to go and do those things for you, which they wouldn't be able to do without this document. And again, you can see on there, they can deal with HMRC, manage investments. So, you know, anything from a financial point of view, these things would stop.
They basically become you, don't they?
Oh, yeah, exactly. They become you and they make the decisions on your behalf if you're unable to, if you don't have that voice anymore.
You've chosen someone who you trust, haven't you?
Yeah,
That's the main thing.
if I named you and Hayley as my attorneys, for all intents and purposes, whilst this might make you feel a bit nauseous, you become me. But it's that powerful as you become me in the eyes of the institutions.
So you can pick whoever you want. It's the person you trust and know will do right.
Because it's accepted that you had capacity when you made that document, because there's certain provisions in there that prove that you've got capacity at the time that you've made it. And when I made that choice, if I did choose you to, you can then register that document with what's called the Office of the Public Guardian. And if I'm incapacitated, you can then, whoever I dealt with as an institution, in the eyes of that institution, you're me. That's how powerful it is. So it's really important that you do it today, because that's the only time that you're guaranteed that you can do it. The worst phone calls we get at the office, we're not proud of the fact we call them the too late phone calls, because unfortunately that's exactly what they are. We'll often get a phone call from clients where, oh, you did our wills and lasting power of attorney last year. My dad's just been diagnosed with dementia. Can you do anything for him? And the answer is yes, but it's not the lasting power of attorney. No. And it's a much more expensive and depressing route that they have to go down then.
I think, again, we presume, like we presume with the wills, you know, we presumed the money would be each other's. But with lasting power of attorney, I would presume if Sean was poorly, that I could deal
in a partnership,
with
like we've got,
or marriage. If it was with my mum, I look after her now. I sort all her things out, that I could look after all those things. But of course, you describe it really well, because the world doesn't work that way at all. I couldn't go into mum's bank and sort her financial affairs out. I couldn't do those things, could I?
No, it's the same misconceptions as a will, really. But as we've said, if you try to go into your mum's bank now and said, I need to take some money out, there's data protection. So, you know, you're not the account holder. Why would you need to take money out? And that's why she's got capacity. Not that it makes it any different, but if she's lost capacity, it's going to be even more difficult then, because she's a vulnerable adult.
Well, even the other day, I just thought you were in the bank with your mum.
Gosh, yes.
And a mum was sat down.
Oh, I wasn't very happy.
She was not happy. Oh,
so
my word.
We'd paid in a cheque in the machine.
And they were right,
and
really.
it didn't give us a receipt. So I just wanted to know, had that cheque gone in? So I was at the counter paying in another cheque into my mum's account. My mum was sat over there.
Mum's in her 80s, so she's having to sit down.
Stand in the queue. And I said, well, my mum's over there. Could you just tell me if the cheque went in? I can tell you the amount of the cheque. I can tell you the day that we put it in. I can tell you the time we put it in. Could you tell me that it's gone in? He went, no. He says, is that your mum? I said, yeah. Well, can I speak to your mum? So I got mum up, brought her over, and he said, is this your account? And mum said, yes. He says, have you got your passport or driving licence? And I, no.
But they're right, really.
Let me just check if I've got my passport.
I was like, you are kidding me. I was like, no, and I got all that information. I was very mad. Because I was like, I don't.
But
then,
that's
that's exactly what you're saying.
We
would all be furious if anyone could just walk up and access.
Exactly.
No, honestly, I am Hayley's mum. If you could just tell me.
Yeah, exactly. But I wasn't trying to even take money out. I was just saying, did that check go in?
Right,
of course, they can't tell you.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
It's exactly that. They can't tell you.
The interesting thing is, when we talk about this, we always view our own position through our own lens.
Yeah.
So we think that everyone else sees our position. So you know your relationship with your mum. You know your relationship with each other. Husbands and wife know the relationship with each other. But we only see it through that lens. So it's confusing to us and disappointing and frustrating when what everyone else in our circle sees, the institutions don't. So what do you mean I can't access my wife's account?
But that's why the LPA is so important.
It's completely right.
That's why the LPA is so important.
They are,
And we're only talking about finance at the moment. There are two, aren't there?
There are.
Unless you're in Scotland when it's a joint document, but Simple Law can help with that as well. But the second one is health and well-being, is it?
Health and welfare, yeah. So as we said, finances don't stop, so a lot of people can relate to this document. The health document's more of an emotional side of things. So
it's how you're cared for.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the people that you choose can step into your shoes and decide where you live in. So if you've chosen your children, if they want you to be at home with them, once you've lost your capacity, they can make that choice. If you need to go into care, they can choose what care home that is. If it needs to be close to them, or if they don't like the care home you're in, they can change that. And down to what you're wearing, what you're eating, which are really, really personal things, might seem trivial, but are also really important.
They're
because
not.
No, so
They
important.
make you you. They're who you
Yeah,
are.
absolutely.
So, you know, even makeup, putting some makeup on your face, only your loved ones are going to know that that's
What you
important
like,
to you.
yeah.
Yeah, and as you've said a couple of times, Ian, it's about who's actually going to visit you as well. If you're in a care home, you might be estranged from a family member, and if you haven't got that power of attorney, you haven't got the right to stipulate who that person would want to visit them. So it could be a long-lost relative that wants to come and see you, when that person could have outrightly said, I don't want to see that.
And
see
that does happen in
sister,
families,
for
doesn't
example.
it?
definitely.
So that is, it's so wrong because they didn't want to see them
Exactly.
again.
When you make a lasting power of attorney, you're actually referred to as the donor.
Yeah.
Which sounds a bit dark, doesn't it? But actually, what you're doing is you're donating your voice to a person or to a collection of people that you trust. And you trust them because it's usually your husband, your partner, your children, your closest friends, those people that you trust. And you're doing that today when you've got capacity, and you know they're going to look after you and do right by you. That's why you did it. And no one questions it because you did it today whilst you had capacity. The problem is if you don't have that document, again, you've lost all control.
Yeah.
And worse for your family, because it's quite selfless making a will, it's quite selfless doing a lasting power of attorney, even though obviously you will get something out of it. But you're really doing it for your family and loved ones, because then they're not having to rail against these institutions and fight off things that they know that you wouldn't want without actually having the correct authority to do so. So it's a really, really selfless thing to make a lasting power of attorney, a really selfless thing.
And without
And I think,
everything's so much harder, isn't it,
And
for
I
you
think-
to deal with?
Yeah, and once it's done, you
Really
can put
bad
it to the
situations
side.
Yeah.
made worse. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think some people, or some of us, will think, oh, well, we're not old enough yet. And
Yeah.
I'll wait.
Yes, I know. I
I'll
know
wait.
exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you
We'll
mean.
wait till we're in our 70s. We'll wait till, but that a lasting power of attorney, it should be now.
It's relevant for everybody because,
Isn't
like we
it?
say, you
Anything
don't
can
like
happen.
think anything's going to happen, but there's a lot more illnesses going around now.
There's so many
Accidents. This is the thing. It's just not worth the risk. Once you've done it, the main thing is that you've done the document and you've got it signed and it's validated, which we can offer you for free. The main thing is you've got that document in place. We've mentioned it needs to be registered, but you can do that as and when you feel you need to.
Correct.
The main thing is that you've got it, so that if the worst should happen, it's there. Your family are protected. You don't need to think about it. You can put it
Before
away.
lasting power of attorney, there was a document called enduring power of attorney, and we've got clients that are going back decades, and we're still getting phone calls to the office now where they've chosen to use our storage and aftercare facility, and it's basically the children are phoning up and saying, we've found this information. This has happened to my dad. Did he do anything? And we're like, yes, he had an enduring power of attorney. And even though it was signed, like in 2005. It's accepted by the Office of Public Guardian today. So the important thing is that it's signed, dated and witnessed correctly.
But you
that's
check
the key.
all that as well.
Yeah.
And that's what
Absolutely.
That's what you should do.
There's no point in having this amazing document, and even though these prices are phenomenal and we think we've made it incredibly affordable, it would still be a waste of money if when you got that document you just shot it in a drawer and said, I'll do that this weekend, and like you've kept making the point, life just gets in the way.
Yeah.
I'm the king of procrastination. Yeah. But there is a point, and as awful as it sounds, there is a point where it does become too late.
Yeah.
And then what was the point in getting the document drafted? So we don't badger you, we can't make you sign it, but in a very nice way, we'll give you a gentle nudge and say, have you signed this document? Do you need any help?
Yeah.
Is there anything you don't understand?
We'll send instructions
And
as
you
well.
do you do hold our hands, because we actually did my mum's lasting power of attorney through Simpler Law way before we worked with them here on ShopOnTV, and it is a hand-holding service. Honestly, myself and my mum worry about absolutely everything. We did the call together on sort of the video call because obviously I had to speak to mum. It's down to mum to make the decision, but I was there next to her, and we were so worried because we do worry about everything. It was so simple. I didn't have to worry about me not understanding the wording.
You worried about legal
That's it,
terminology,
or-
anything like that?
or being worried about asking a question, thinking, oh, they're going to think I'm really daft. That's something stupid. Not at any point did I feel my question was stupid, because I just felt so comfortable.
Looked after,
and the
really.
lovely thing was,
Yeah.
they took care of me.
Yeah.
And the lovely thing, well, mum and myself. And the lovely thing was, we didn't think we had any answers, or we didn't know what we were doing. But actually, just through the conversation we had with you, you found those answers from us. We didn't need to know anything.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're trained to do.
Yeah.
We're there to produce a document. It's your document. You know what you want to achieve. We've just got to work that out with you. And it's just a conversation. You might actually have a little bit of fun.
We did,
We take you to a dark place for a couple of moments. But apart from that, we're just doing something productive for you. So, yeah, it's a nice conversation. It's a personal conversation.
Sorry, I think I won't talk too highly of you because you'll ask for another pay rise.
Well deserved.
But Charlotte and her team, you know, the client care team, they make it a point not to lose sight of the fact that just because they do this every day for a living, for a job, you know, for a profession, they understand that for the vast majority of our clients, certainly coming through a platform like what we're doing tonight on the TV, it might be the first time, it might be the only time that they go through that process, and we don't lose sight of that. So that's why we do hold your hand through the whole process. We're not patronising, we're not condescending, but we want to make sure that you fully understand everything, because only when you're 100% happy with everything we've told you and you're 100% happy with everything you've told us, will you then get the correct document for you, and that's really important. So Charlotte and the team don't lose sight of that.
No.
So we don't want people to worry that it's going to be complicated or morbid or difficult, because it's absolutely the polar opposite
Yeah,
of all those
absolutely.
things.
Yeah, definitely.
And that comes as a surprise to a lot of
Yeah.
people, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Especially when you end up
does.
having a laugh going, I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting to have
Yeah,
a laugh
that's
today.
it.
Yeah.
And it's that peace of mind as well. We've done it. It's away. It's finished, and it's that weight off your shoulders. You don't
that
realise, I
relief,
think,
isn't it?
sometimes that
Yeah.
you're holding that weight on your shoulders. Price on your screen now is actually for will and lasting power of attorney. You've got a massive saving, £309, I think it is, in total saving, which is incredible. So you can do the two together, and it allows you to split the cost as well to those 4 payments. But actually, perhaps we should look at all the prices again, because you might be watching thinking, well, actually, I definitely want to do the will. I definitely want to do the will. These prices, whatever option you're going for, you need to secure them. It's only up until, it's a limited time, till Friday at close of business. Sadly, if you get in touch on Saturday, it will have gone up to the first price that you see, and you will kick yourself. It's still really good prices. I thought it'd be so much more expensive than it is, but you've got massive savings. So £89 for your will. You can split that over 4 payments of £22.25. And if you think about what you spend a month, how much do you spend a month on coffee? A lot more than £22.25. I mean, incredible value for money. And this is your last gift to your loved ones. This is that Christmas present. Perhaps you don't really buy Christmas presents for the family now. This is your Christmas present to the family, that you know that what you want to happen, what you want, you know, certain people to have, it's going to happen because you've written a legal will.
Well, that's a gift for everyone, though, isn't it? A gift for you, because it's your peace of mind that everything's written down, and a gift for the whole family, because it does make it easier if it's all written down. Everything's in place, isn't it?
Well, one of the biggest breakups in family is when there isn't a will and it's family fallout, sadly, about money and things. And that would be devastating. If the worst happened to you yesterday and you're looking down and your whole family who loved each other yesterday are now fighting, and you could have made it all right by writing a will.
Bereavement's the single biggest cause for a breakdown in family relationship, because obviously emotions are high as
Yeah,
well.
That's the
definitely.
thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're all in
Everything's
a really
heightened.
bad place, aren't you?
Everything is so
And then
heightened, isn't it?
What
So a
you-
will doesn't make the bereavement easier,
No.
but having a will definitely doesn't make it worse.
Yeah,
That
definitely.
That's why
bereavement
it's
you
selfless.
live with
Yeah.
forever, but that absolutely, it doesn't make it worse. And then don't forget, you have got the lasting power of attorney price there, and you can also join the will and lasting power of attorney together as well. You've got all the options. If you're perhaps a little unsure, perhaps you've already got in touch and you've secured the will price, and now you're thinking, I should have done the will and lasting power of attorney. When the team get in touch with you, just say, I'd like to do both. I know they will honour all those prices as long as you secure them. You need to do that right now.
We secure them with the appointment, and so just by getting in touch, it is as simple as that. Remember, the first 250 people will get the book, worth £25. It basically has everything that you need, all your information in one place. It could be pensions, it could be passwords for computers and tablets, all your social
That's
media.
like a book of gold, that. I think
Yeah.
everybody should have that from 17, because you might have pensions that the rest of your family don't know about, and
Yeah.
they will get lost and they won't go to the family. Or actually passwords for your phones. Perhaps all your information is on your tablet and no one can get on it because they don't know your password. Or all those photographs you took on those fabulous family holidays.
All in one
They've all
place.
been lost, but not when it's all in that, in that book. That book, there's only 250, and I know loads of people go and buy it after they've gone. You're getting the, if you secure your deal now, you'll
get
be
the book.
getting that book free of charge. To secure the deal, get your phones out, take a photo of this, because you need to do this before you go to bed. You can either go through the website, simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. The team are still on the phone, so 0333 600 2600. They're there till 3 a.m. Just ring up really quickly now and say, I want to secure the deals, please. Then just go to bed. You've done it, and they'll, you'll sort out all the other details.
You've taken that first step then, haven't you?
The easiest way, and the way I know everybody is, and the majority of people are doing, is the text.
Yeah, and all you've got to do is text the word WILL, WILL, to 66777, and then you've registered your interest. The team will get back in touch with you.
You've secured the deal.
Yep.
You've got the book there.
You're good to go.
Absolutely.
And you've started. That's the thing. You've started the process of either writing a
off,
will.
Don't we? You'll put it off because you'll do it after Christmas. Then it'll be spring, and then you've got to sort the garden out. Then it'll be summer, and you've got to book your holiday. You keep putting it off. And the worst could happen yesterday, and then it's too late today. You should have done it. Do it right now, secure that deal, and then everything else just falls into place, because simpler law just make it so simple. And we'll pop the details for the will back on the screen, because I know lots of you will be thinking, should we go for the will? Should we go for the lasting power? It doesn't matter which one you secure, but just look at that price, £89. 4 payments of £22.25. There is no reason not to secure that price tonight. It's phenomenal. And
when we talk about simpler law, experts in the field, but if you're watching at home and you're thinking, why should we choose simpler law, Ian?
We're specialists in this area. This is all that we do. So you wouldn't come to us for any other part of a legal service, if you like. We only offer a private client legal services all around estate planning. Wills are at the heart of what we do, as are lasting powers of attorney. But you wouldn't come to us for a divorce, a personal injury claim, a boundary dispute, that kind of thing. So when you speak to Charlotte or a member of Charlotte's team, they're trained in estate planning only, and they've seen every scenario. So when people think it's going to be expensive, I think we've blown that myth out of the water tonight. When people think it's going to be morbid or difficult, it's only by actually sending the text or picking up that phone tonight that you'll find out that it's none of those things. But the only way that Charlotte and the team can help you is by making that all-important first step. So sometimes the planets align. If you're still listening to me waffling on at nearly 3 a.m, there might be a reason for that. And it's not a morbid one, it's a good one. You've got an opportunity now. I'd see this as an opportunity. Before you go to bed tonight, you can text the word WILL to 66777. And tomorrow when you get that phone call from us, you won't regret making that decision, because you've done something amazing, not just for yourself, but for the people that you love. And without that, you're not going to control your last act on planet Earth, and for me that's incredibly important.
So important, isn't it?
We've only got a couple of minutes, but it's so important that everybody writes a will, because sadly, if you haven't written one yourself, you get a government will that just doesn't relate to
what you want.
Anything.
Exactly. We've never written a will that lines up with a government will. It's bespoke to you. The main reason for writing a will is just making it your choice and making sure that your wishes are in place, because again, we've gone over what a will can achieve. It can be gifts, it's not just distribution, it can be guardianship, the age that your children inherit, even people that you don't want to inherit. It's so bespoke. So all we're asking you to do is just, absolutely, just make that first step and put it in place, because once you've done it, it's there.
Our questions to you are that, what would you like to achieve? What do you want to do? What would you want to happen with your estate? The rules of intestacy doesn't ask what do you want to happen, it tells you what's going to happen and doesn't care about you or your family.
Writing your own will is all about you, isn't it?
It's probably, and I'm not being melodramatic, it's probably one of the most important things you can do, and we don't talk about it enough. It is your last act on planet Earth. There's no getting out of that. It's your last act on planet Earth. So if your last act, you want it to be yours.
And be right,
not a set of rules put in place by the government almost 100 years ago. Do something amazing for yourself and your family, and make a will.
And so affordable, £89 or £22.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. Simpler Law have got a great reputation. When it comes to reviews, take a little look at this. We'll finish with this because Charlotte's here with us. Hey. My consultation was done by Charlotte. She was very professional, explained thoroughly each stage, making sure it was firstly what I wanted and also that I understood any advice she gave me. Excellent service, and that's what Simpler Law are all about.
We are so happy that we do these shows, because I think there's so much that we don't realise, and we do presume what we want to happen is going to happen when we die. And sadly, if you haven't got a will that you've written, that's not the case. You do get that government will, and it doesn't relate to anybody. It's not going to be what you want to happen. So please, this is your final gift to your loved ones. This is your Christmas present to those. Don't buy from this year. Tell them you've written the will and what
Maybe
you
buy
want
them some chocolates
is
as
going to happen. No, they might fall out with you. Perhaps still buy them a little gift, but it will be the best gift because everyone's got that peace of mind. One of the biggest breakups of families is when they're falling out about money because sadly someone's left and
Not left their wishes. Yeah.
written. So please, will, lasting power of attorney. Take a photo of all the details on the side of the screen now and make sure you get in touch before you go to bed because these deals, I'm afraid, finish close of day on
Friday. Yeah, close of business.
And you'll forget, so do it now.
Do it now. Got to say a huge thank you to Charlotte and to Ian for joining us. Thank you so much. And thank you to you.
Thank you. See you later.